The gunfire came later. First, there was red wine on white linen. In a dim Sicilian restaurant, under candlelight and grief, a woman stumbled through the wrong door and shattered the routine of a man who had not truly lived in years. Ronan Vale, dressed in silence and sorrow, looked up expecting apology, and found a heartbeat. But every great love in a violent world carries its own funeral music, because the moment a kingpin remembers how to feel, the whole underworld starts calculating how to make him bleed.
Heals. For 3 years, Ronan Vale had built a fortress of pure nothingness inside his head, a carefully crafted void meant to cut him off from everything that came before. But on some random Thursday, under a gloomy Sicilian sky, the walls came crashing down. Heals. And the thing that did it wasn't a bullet or a bomb. Nope. It was the accidental brush of a total stranger. The whole thing was a blink-and-you-miss-it moment. A stumble in a restaurant, a tipped-over glass, a quick glance. But for him, Heals, it was a freaking earthquake. To get why this guy just completely fell apart, you have to see the ritual he'd set up at Osteria del Luna, 30 minutes after the sun went down. Heals. He never walked in the front door. He was a ghost, always slipping in through a side hall to a private room where dim lights and silent waiters kept the real world away. He picked this spot, tucked away in Palermo's old city, Heals, because it was the perfect place to disappear, a stage designed to keep people out. This was his routine for 3 straight years. 156 Thursdays in a row, each one another nail in a coffin he was building. Heals. He always took the same corner table, a spot with a perfect view of every single exit. This whole performance, the food, the single glass of wine, the exit, was his shield against the ghost haunting his own house. Heals. His numbness was a self-prescribed drug, a state of perfect frozen control. It was his safe space. The owner, Marco, moved with the quiet respect of a guy who knew the rules, putting the wine down without saying a word. His face was a total blank. Heals. 0 opinions, 0 motion. He'd learned a long time ago you don't ask questions, you don't offer sympathy, and you definitely ignore the heavy cloud of grief hanging around this guy. The usual, Senor Vale. A sharp nod was the only answer he ever got. Heals. Then Marco would just vanish. The kitchen noises, clanging pots, muffled shouts, a sizzling grill, were just background static for a ceremony that had lost all meaning. His phone buzzed. Heals. Encrypted text from his guy Luca. Shipment is through. No issues. Vale's reply was one word, good. He put the phone face down, a tiny deliberate act of telling the world to screw off. Just as his fingers wrapped around the wine glass, Heals, chaos decided to make an entrance. A woman, Elena Hart, though he didn't know her name yet, burst out of the kitchen. She was in a hurry, arms piled high with dirty dishes, and her path was set for disaster. The collision was a sure thing. Heals. The wine glass tipped, spilling its guts across the white tablecloth like a fresh bloodstain. Plates clattered but didn't break, and Elena, with her dark hair and green eyes, maybe 30 years old, just froze. Her hands were glued to the tray. Heals, her mouth a perfect O of total shock. Heals. Oh my God. No. I'm so sorry, the spell broke. She slammed the tray on a table, the thud vibrating up her arms as she grabbed for a napkin to stop the spreading stain. The words just spilled out of her, a frantic whisper to herself. Heals. I wasn't even supposed to be out here. The kitchen door was jammed. I thought I could cut through, and now, oh God, this is just making it worse. Vale was completely still, just watching. He knew how people usually reacted when they messed up around him. Heals. They got scared or they started begging. This woman did neither. Her entire world had shrunk down to the mess she'd made. When she finally looked up and met his eyes, she didn't look away. I am so sorry, she repeated, her voice full of real regret. Heals. Did any get on you? No. Heals. His own voice was a dry croak, like an old engine turning over after years of sitting idle. He had to clear his throat. It's fine. It's really not fine. I just dumped red wine all over your table. Her American accent was loud and out of place here. Heals. Let me get Marco. He'll comp your bill for sure, and I can pay for any cleaning if it got on your. It is fine, Vale said again. But this time his words were sharp, an order to end this right now. It was an accident. Elena stopped dabbing at the stain. Heals. The soggy napkins bunched in her fist. For the first time, she seemed to see him as a person, not just a customer. Something in his face made her relax just a little, though her cheeks were still bright red with embarrassment. Heals. You're being way more chill about this than you have any right to be, she pointed out. Heals. Most guys would be screaming at me by now. I am not most men. Guess it's my lucky day. A quick, nervous smile flashed across her face. I still feel awful. Let me at least get you another wine. Before he could say no, Marco showed up, heels, looking like he was having a heart attack. He saw the whole thing. A stream of panicked Italian flew out of him, all aimed at Elena. You didn't need to speak the language to get the message. You just messed with the most powerful dude on the island. Heels. What did you do? The last part he didn't say out loud. He didn't have to. Elena just held up her hands to calm him down. I know. I'm sorry. It was an accident. Marco spun around to Vale, his English thick with terror. Senior Vale, my apologies. Heels. This is her second night. Heels. She doesn't know the layout. I will of course pay for any. Marco. Vale's voice cracked like a whip, slicing right through the owner's panic. It's fine. Bring another glass, and let the woman get back to work. The order was final. Heels. Marco gave a single nod and backed away. But Elena stuck around for a second, her expression changing from fear to something. It was curiosity, maybe even a little suspicion. She'd seen how terrified the owner was. Second night, then? Heels. Vale heard himself ask. The question snapped her out of her thoughts. What? Marco. He said it's your second night. Oh yeah, she pushed a piece of dark hair out of her eyes. I moved to Palermo last week. Heels. I was looking for work. Marco needed someone for nights who didn't get scared easily. She paused, and her eyes challenged him. Though I'm starting to think his idea of scared is a little more extreme than mine. The comment was a test. Heels. A little probe sent into the dark to see what kind of man she was dealing with. She was sharp, Vale noted, and she had a type of courage that was seriously dangerous in a room like this. Where from? He asked. Heels. He knew it was a mistake the second the words were out. It was a breach of his own rules, asking a question to keep a conversation going that he should have already shut down. California. L.A., originally. Elena shifted her feet, heels, glancing towards the kitchen. Heels. But I've been bouncing around for a few years. Just looking for somewhere that feels right, I guess. Vale couldn't even imagine it. The idea of being free enough to be lost was a luxury from another planet. He gave a small nod. Well, Elena said, heels. Breaking the silence, I should probably go before Marco has a stroke. Again, I'm really sorry about the wine. Elena. He'd picked up her name from Marco's frantic shouting. It was filed away now. She stopped, raising an eyebrow. It's fine, Vale said, heels. For the third and final time. It's forgotten. This time, her smile was real. It actually reached her eyes. You're weirdly calm for a guy who just got a wine bath. Thanks for not getting me fired. And with that, heels, she grabbed her tray and disappeared back into the kitchen, her walk confident and sure. Heels. And just like that, Vale was alone again, left with a red stain on the table and a weird, unwelcome feeling flickering to life in his chest, curiosity. He tried to kill it instantly to get back to the cold math of his business, heels. But when Marco came back with a fresh glass of wine, Vale heard himself ask another question. The American. How long is she staying in Palermo? Marco nearly dropped the glass. I haven't asked, Signor Vale. She seems capable, aside from this, heels. Her references checked out. She's a hard worker. The owner paused, picking his next words like he was walking through a minefield. Is there a problem? Should I? No problem. Vale lifted the new glass. Just making conversation. Heels. The lie felt clumsy and weird on his tongue, but Marco bought it with a wave of relief and backed off. Heels. He drank his wine, telling himself this changed nothing. Just a glitch in the system. A random event. Next Thursday, the ritual would be back on track, and the American waitress would fade into the background with all the other ghosts in the room. Heels. He was sure of it, and he stayed sure of it right up until the next Thursday, when Elena herself brought him his wine, a little smirk on her face. No tray this time, she said. See? Heels. I'm way less dangerous when I'm not kicking down doors I'm not supposed to use. It was on that second Thursday that Vale started noticing things. The way she tied her hair back, showing the line of her neck. She moved like she owned the place now. Heels. And when she laughed at something someone yelled from the kitchen, the sound blew right past his defenses and hit a part of his soul he'd bricked up and left to die. Heels. Red wine, yeah? Her voice hits first, holding out the bottle like it's a holy relic. Marco told me it's your usual. Vale's reply is low, on autopilot. I'm a creature of habit. He watches her pour. Heels. Her hand is rock steady in the middle of all the restaurant noise, not one drop wasted. But I gotta say, she keeps going. Coming to an Italian joint every week for just wine and pasta, you're missing like 60% of the whole show. Heels. Is that your expert opinion? A ghost of a smile plays on his lips, gone in a flash. That's my I've been taste testing Jeppy's kitchen experiments for 2 weeks opinion. Elena sets the bottle down with a thud. Feels. Yesterday, he made this crazy dish with squid ink and roasted peppers. It was insane. And in the silence that follows, his mouth betrays him. A tiny twitch, the start of a smile he can't stop. He's caught. Feels. High praise, what? A ripple in his perfectly still pond. For a guy like Ronan, routine is everything, a literal fortress built to keep the world out. And this server, Elena, just waltzed up to the main gate, basically jiggling the lock. Feels. He could stick to the program, stay safe inside his walls, or he could take a step out. The mission brief was simple. Maintain stasis. Don't engage unless you absolutely have to. But somewhere deep down, the guy he used to be starts making noise. Feels. He hears himself breaking protocol, actually asking for her recommendation. She lets out this little gasp, this surprised "oh," that's so genuinely happy it cuts right through the gloom. He clocks it immediately as a tactical screw-up. Feels. A move into uncharted and super dangerous territory. But he doesn't pull back. She's scribbling it down, making it official. It's a deal. If this new road leads to disaster, he can always go back to the old one. He nods. Feels. She gives him another smile, way bigger this time, before vanishing into the kitchen, leaving him alone with the sound of his own rules shattering. Feels. The mission parameters were brutally simple. Watch, survive, get out. Lather, rinse, repeat. It's a ghost's life, 0 attachments allowed. But then Elena pops back out of the kitchen chaos about 20 minutes later, holding a plate of handmade ravioli. Feels. And she's not carrying it like a waitress. She's carrying it like an artist showing off their masterpiece, with a look that says, "I dare you." To turn this down would feel like a straight-up crime against humanity or something. If you don't like this, Feels. She announces, leaving 0 room to argue. We can't be friends. The question just slips out before his training can body slam it. We're friends? Her yes is immediate. Feels. And then she drops her own little truth bomb about being lonely in Palermo. A flash of vulnerability that instantly builds a bridge between them he absolutely does not want. Then she offers him an out, acknowledging his whole strong, silent vibe. Feels, basically letting him off the hook. Feels. His programming is screaming at him, end this conversation now. Feels. He should have put the wall back up right then and there, shut down this whole friend zone assumption. He didn't. Instead, his hand grabs the fork. He's engaging the new variable. And the first bite isn't just a taste test. It's pure poetry on a plate. Feels. An insane, perfect mashup of flavors that's both new and somehow familiar. Proof of a real master at work. It tasted like Italy, like a life he thought was gone for good. When she asks what he thinks, his first response is a lockdown. It's good. Feels. Her face falls in this totally fake display of disappointment, a move so obvious but so damn good it forces him to give her more. It works. He caves, upgrading his review to excellent and calling the chef, Jep, an artist. She's happy now, Feels. But before she bounces, she drops one last smiling command that makes it clear who's in charge of their next meeting. She'll be picking his food again. He tries one last weak counterattack. Assuming I come back, Feels. Oh, you'll be back. The way she says it is absolute, a damn prophecy hanging in the air after she's gone. She's got him hooked, she jokes, on the good stuff. And she's not wrong. He came back. Thursday after Thursday. The routine wasn't broken. Feels. It was just rewritten with her at the center of it. Every week, she was the wild card, putting a new dish in front of him and dropping another piece of her story. Like the time she got lost in Palermo, or some drama from the kitchen. Feels. She treated him like he was just some guy. It's like she was totally blind to what he really was, the cold-blooded purpose that made other dudes in the restaurant literally flinch away from his stare. Feels. Her total lack of a survival instinct should have been a massive red flag, a threat to the sterile bubble he'd built around himself. Feels. Instead, that 1 hour every week became the main event, a tiny truce in the war that was always raging inside him. The first signs of attachment, a seriously dangerous weed, started to grow. By the 5th week, he's showing up 15 minutes early, Feels, just to watch her work the room. By the 7th, he knows exactly how she takes her coffee. By the 10th, he doesn't even look at the menu. She just brings him whatever insane thing Jeppy cooked up that day. Their 5-minute chats start to stretch, Feels, and they always feel too short. Then one night, she gives him this look, a real look, and starts talking about his handler. She'd noticed how twitchy Marco was, Feels. How he'd call Ronan an important customer with this voice tight with fear he was trying way too hard to hide. Feels. He was always polite, she admitted, but that wasn't it. She could see the terror he sparked in Marco. Real hardcore dread. She's trying to find the words. Around men like Ronan just finishes it for her, his voice flat, clinical. Men like me, heels. Her pupils narrow, zooming in. She had to ask, what kind of man are you? The truth was a loaded gun. A lie would destroy whatever this weird, fragile thing was between them. So he dodged, defining himself by where he was, not what he was. By her, heels. I'm the kind who appreciates good pasta and good company. A beat. Beyond that, does it really matter? The restaurant noise fills the void, the rest of the world just carrying on, clueless about the bomb that could go off at their table. Heels. Life just kept rolling, totally unaware that an entire universe was teetering on the edge of their little table. I guess not, Elena finally says. Her logic is so simple, so clean. He'd never been anything but kind to her, heels. She paints a picture of him with her words. Quiet, a little broody, but nice. That last word just hangs there. Broody, she grins and explains, calling him the classic, dark, mysterious man with a past. She says his whole vibe is cinematic, heels. He had to ask if that was a compliment. Her answer is this ridiculous, playful theory that maybe he's a vampire. And for the first time, a real smile cracks through his armor, a fissure in the stone wall, heels. He's laughing it off just as another table calls her away, pulling her back into her own world, heels. She stops halfway there. We're not done. The list of things she wants to know is basically a table of contents for his operational security manual. Why he always sits facing the door. Why he never, ever has dessert. She cuts herself off, heels, calling herself nosy. He says one word, an order that seems to shock both of them. Ask. After a beat, she looks him dead in the eye and goes straight for the heart of his entire lockdown world. Why Thursdays? The pure, unbreakable consistency of it, heels. He looks down at his wine. The dark red pulls him back in time to a different stain on a different night. 3 years ago, Thursdays were for his son, Matteo, their day, a ritual of burning pasta and laughing so hard they couldn't breathe. A perfect, heels, beautiful memory, heels. This whole ritual was born from some serious pain and a few good laughs. It was their thing. Then Matteo was gone, and the day was straight up toxic. Thursdays turned into a grind, a walk through a minefield of memories, heels. A desperate attempt to keep his son's ghost from fading away into the violence that took him. He couldn't dump that on her. No way. Couldn't let that kind of darkness get on her. So he threw her a crumb of the truth. Routine. I like routine, heels. You could see it on her face. She knew he was leaving stuff out, but she didn't push it. Fair enough, she says, a total act of mercy. We all have our things. And then she leaves him alone with the terrifying thought that he just shared more of himself, heels, even hidden, than he had with anyone in a decade. A move that was, by itself, a massive and totally unacceptable risk. Heels. Dangerous. The word was on a loop in his head. His partner, Luca, would call this a tactical screw-up, a liability that could tank the whole operation. Getting attached is a weakness, and where they come from, weakness gets you a coffin, and yet, heels. When the next Thursday rolls around, he finds himself walking right back to the Osteria della Luna, same exact time. When Elena comes over, rocking that familiar warm smile while holding the wine bottle, he realizes all his training, all his protocols, heels. All his internal alarm bells had just turned to dust. He just couldn't bring himself to care about the danger. She brings out a special dish, seafood risotto, some new saffron thing Jeppy was trying. He tells her to thank the chef. She shoots back, heels. Tell him yourself, basically an open invite from the kitchen. Then she slides into the chair right across from him, heels. She wasn't just dropping off the food. Nope, she was staying. The kitchen was about to close. She says staff meals in 20 minutes. He could feel his heart start hammering, a complete betrayal against his ribs, heels. He heard himself say he didn't mind if she sat down. Then she starts her light interrogation, hiding the questions behind a killer smile. Question 1. What is it you actually do? She had a theory, apparently. He tells her to go for it, heels. Her guess was a 50-50 shot between two opposite worlds, a dude born with a silver spoon, or a guy whose work involved late nights and a talent for making people nervous. Her aim was scarily on point. Am I close? He gives up just one word, heels, a confirmation that was also a brick wall, business, heels, import, export. Her attempt to dig deeper got nothing but silence from him. Various kinds. Her soft laugh was basically her saying, I see you dodging the question. You're terrible at this. She saw it, plain as day. The more he tried to hide, heels, the more legendary he seemed. He tried to sell the idea that he was just boring. She threw the waiter Marco's obvious fear of him right back in his face as proof that was a total lie. Then she changed her game plan, saying his job didn't really matter, heels. Her curiosity was just a side thing. There was something way more important she had to get out. You're the most interesting person I've met in this city. He suggests she needs to get out more. She says she's met tons of people. They were all heels. According to her, exhausting. A heavy pause hung in the air, electric and quiet. You're not. And in that 1 second, the whole vibe between them shattered and came back together as something new. Something he couldn't escape. Heels. The comfortable flow of their meetings just broke, and something real started leaking through the cracks. Ronan felt it like a quake in the foundation of his solitude, a wall he'd built one painful brick at a time. For once, he had zero urge to patch it up. Heels. A question, he asked, the words feeling foreign. You'll owe me one in return. Polmo, you said you were a wanderer. Why stop here? The playful edge of Elena's smile faded, getting more thoughtful. Honestly, I got tired of the hustle. Heels. My 20s were one big hunt for the perfect story, the perfect job, the perfect city, the perfect me. All I ever got out of it was let down. Her finger drew a random pattern on the tablecloth. So I figured I'd try the opposite. Go somewhere new. Heels. Do something different and just see what happens. Heels. So what are you observing now? I'm spilling wine on mysterious dudes and eating the best food of my entire life. She looks right at him, no games. It's not the worst gig. Could be better, I guess. But we spend too much time chasing better. Heels. Better is just another word for running. She sits up a little straighter. I'm done running. For once, I just want to stand still. Ronan gets that on a level she couldn't even imagine. He's a runner too, but he's running from something way different. Heels. From ghosts. From memories. From anything that might crack the ice and make him actually feel again. And then Elena walked out of a kitchen, crashed into his life, and his marathon came to a screeching halt. I should let you eat, she says, getting up. Heels, before your dinner gets cold. Elena. Heels. She stops, her face one big question mark. Ronan searches his brain for the right protocol and comes up empty. How does a guy even say it? Thanks for reminding me how to be a person, don't go. Heels. I think you're the single biggest threat to my sanity in a decade. He goes with the simplest truth he has. The risotto, he says. It's good. Her smile says she heard everything he didn't say. I'll let Jeppy know you approve. December rolls in. Heels. It brings a cold, hard rain that turns the streets of Polmo into black glass and chases the tourists away. The Osteria de la Luna gets slammed, a hideout for locals looking for heat and carbs. But Ronan's Thursday table was always his, Heels, saved for him by some unspoken, unbreakable rule that Marco's crew just knew not to mess with. Heels. Elena had started wearing this dark green sweater, a color that cranked up the hazel in her eyes until they were basically jade. Ronan clocked the detail, tried to file it away as nothing, and failed, hard. You look cold, she pointed out one Thursday. Heels, setting his wine down. Outside, rain was beating the hell out of the window. It was a long day. I know the feeling. She watched him with this intense focus she'd developed over the last few months. Do you want to talk about it? No. Heels. Would you like me to distract you from it? Yes. Elena smiled and launched into the story of her disastrous attempt to figure out the Polmo bus system, a tale told with wild hand gestures and at least 3 different character voices. When she finished, Heels. Ronan realized the knot in his shoulders had loosened. Better? She asked. Better. Heels. Good, because I'm about to make it even better. She pulled a small wrapped square out of her apron pocket. An early Christmas present. Ronan stared at it like it might be a bomb. You shouldn't have. I wanted to. Open it. Heels. Inside was a bookmark made of black leather, with his initials stamped in silver leaf right at the top. I've noticed you always have a book in your coat, Elena explained, with a little hint of doubt in her voice. Heels. And the corner on your current one is looking pretty beat up. So, I thought, I don't know, maybe it'd be useful. If you don't like it, I saved the receipt. I like it. Ronan ran his thumb over the cool leather. Heels. It had been years since somebody gave him a gift. Heels. He couldn't even remember the last time someone bothered to notice the little things about his life. Thank you. The power of Elena's relieved smile could have lit up the whole restaurant. You are welcome. Merry Christmas, mysterious stranger. Ronan. Heels. She blinked. Sorry? My name. It's Ronan. He'd been coming here for months. They'd talked about everything from random nonsense to things that felt way too deep, but he had never given her his name. He let her call him you and stranger and Heels. One time she was feeling gutsy, Mr. Grumpy. This felt like giving something up. Elena's whole face softened. Ronan, she said, trying the name out. It fits you better than mysterious stranger. It feels solid. Heels. She held her hand out across the table. Heels. It is nice to officially meet you, Ronan. I am Elena. He took her hand. The plan was a simple pro handshake, but the second their skin touched, a sharp electric shock shot right through him. Her hand was warm, heels, her palm a little rough from the small calluses of her job. She didn't pull back, so he didn't either. They stayed like that for one beat too long. Then 2, 3. A blush crept up Elena's neck, and she finally let go, clearing her throat. Right, well, heels. I should probably check on my tables. Elena, she stopped her escape. Will you have dinner with me? The words were out before he could run any kind of risk assessment. Not here, heels. Somewhere else. Not as a part of your wide. As a date, if that's what you want to call it. Are you asking because you feel like you should or because you actually want to? Both. That brutal honesty made her smile, a real one. Okay, heels. Okay, yes, I will have dinner with you. She let out a short laugh. My God, you look like that question scared you to death. I don't really. Ronan stopped himself. Don't really what? Talk to women, let anyone get close. Heels. Think about anything besides staying alive and getting revenge. Date, he finished, and the word felt totally pathetic. Well, you're not doing a bad job so far. Elena glanced over at Marco, heels, who was watching them with all the subtlety of a stalled freight train. I'm free Sunday night, heels. Does that work for you? I will make it work. Then it's a date. And just like that, she's walking away, but then pivots back. Hey, Ronan. Yes, I'm really glad I wasn't fired that first night. With that mic drop, she's gone, heels, leaving our guy Ronan holding a bookmark with his pulse going crazy. And here's the kicker, the emotional wall he's had up for years, completely shattered. He's actually feeling things, wanting stuff. And for the first time in 3 years, there's zero regret, heels. Come Sunday, the sun's actually out. Ronan, our big bad boss, changes his fit 4 times, finally landing on dark pants and a charcoal sweater that Elena later tells him makes his eyes look silver. Heels. He swings by her small apartment near the university to get her. His knuckles are bone white on the steering wheel the whole ride over, but she doesn't say a word. Smart. He takes her to this classy joint overlooking the ocean. It's fancy, heels, but not in your face about it. The kind of place where everyone whispers and the waiters basically teleport. This is beautiful, Elena says as he pulls out her chair. You come here a lot? First time. Seriously? She looks genuinely shocked. Heels. Figured a guy like you would have all the top spots mapped out. I know the useful spots, where deals go down. Ronan sits opposite her. This is different. Good different or bad different? Heels. Too early to tell. She actually laughs. Fair. A waiter poofs into existence with menus and starts talking about wine. Elena orders in some shaky Italian, and the waiter gives her this tiny barely there smirk. The second he's gone, she groans. Heels. I'm so bad at this language. I'm taking lessons, but I sound like an idiot. You do not. You're just being nice. I'm being honest. Ronan pours her some water. You're trying. That's what counts, not being perfect. Heels. Is that the official Ronan life philosophy? Effort over perfection? You've been digging on me. And yeah, she has the good sense to look a little busted. A little. Your name? Let's just say it leaves a pretty big digital trail. Heels. Of course it does. You don't run half of Sicily's underworld without leaving some ghosts online. Even with all his precautions, the only real question was how deep she'd managed to dig. Ronan's voice is dead flat. And what'd you find? Heels. Elena puts her glass down, the little click echoing in the quiet room, that you're either a genius businessman or a criminal mastermind, depending on who's telling the story. That your son died 3 years ago. Heels. That people are either scared to death of you or they basically worship you. A lot of times it's both. The silence hangs heavy, and that none of it matches the guy I've been watching on Thursday nights. Maybe you haven't been watching long enough. Heels. Maybe. Heels. But I know you tip Jep extra every week because you know Marco's skimming off the top. I know you make sure I get home safe when I work late, even when you think I don't see your car trailing me. I know you read poetry, you hate dessert, Heels, and that a muscle in your eye twitches when you're trying not to smile. She leans in, closing the gap between them. So no, my intel isn't complete, but it's enough. A giant knot just forms in Ronan's throat. The stuff you can find online, Heels, means absolutely nothing to me. It should. Why? Because you're sitting across from a dangerous man. But there's no fear on her face. Not a trace. Anyone can be dangerous if you push the right buttons. And with me, you've been nothing but kind. Heels. My personality has nothing to do with this, Elena. I'm not looking for a good man. Her eyes have him completely locked down. I'm looking for an honest one. Can you be that? And there it is, the test laid bare. He sees it clear as day. A choice. Feels. Either he dives into this fragile new thing they're building, or he retreats back into his cold, safe isolation for good. Retreat is the smart move, the clean play to protect them both from the train wreck that's coming when his world smashes into hers. Feels. But he's done 3 years of sane, cold logic. 3 years in a silent, gray hell. I can try, a voice he barely recognizes as his own says. And apparently that was the magic word. Elena's smile blossoms as she picks up her menu. Good enough for me. Feels. They order food they'll never remember, talking about everything and nothing. Her childhood in California, his early days in Polmo, books they loved, and places they dreamed of going. Feels. The air between them is electric with everything they're not saying, a whole conversation happening in glances and small movements that signals something massive is changing inside him. Between courses, feels. Ronan just stops eating, a tiny crack in his perfect controlled facade. Elena reaches across the table, her fingers lacing with his like it's the most natural thing in the world, like they've done it a million times before. She asks, feels, "Can I tell you something?" And his immediate, unguarded reply, "Anything," seals the deal between them. She confesses she's looking for a reason to stop running, hinting at a whole life spent adrift, now searching for somewhere to dock. Feels. Ronan looks down at her palm like he could actually read their future in its lines. "Did you find it?" he asks. "I think so." Feels. Her voice drops to a whisper, sharing a sacred secret, and then she flips the question on him. "Did you?" This wasn't a request for information. She was asking for proof. Feels. Ronan is a master of interrogations, brutal battles of will designed to break a person's soul. But this was different. This was Elena asking if she was real to him, if all these weeks of Thursday nights and careful smiles had finally built something solid. Feels. "Yes," Ronan answers, a single word that connects the monster the world sees with the man sitting in front of her. "I did." The smile she gives him then, total, glowing with zero guards up, is the key that finally unlocks the truth he'd buried. And Ronan knew, feels, with a certainty that felt like a death sentence, that he was in danger. The kind of danger a bullet can't fix, the kind that meant everything. Feels. The drive to Elena's apartment takes forever, on purpose. Ronan stretches out the minutes, taking quiet side streets, stopping at empty intersections. Any trick in the book to delay the end of the night. Classic symptom of a man who dreads being alone again. Feels. When he finally parks, Elena doesn't even try to get out. "I had a really amazing time tonight," she says. "So did I, even when you forced me to talk about my feelings, especially then." She laughs. "You're a puzzle, Ronan Vale." A massive, feels, primal urge to kiss her just hits him like a truck. It's been building since she grabbed his hand at dinner, maybe for weeks. But the fortress he built around his heart stops him cold. Crossing that line means tearing it all down for good. Feels. Elena seems to read his internal battle in the heavy silence. She leans over the console and plants a quick, warm kiss on his cheek. "Good night, Ronan." And just like that, she's gone. Feels. She's out of the car and halfway to her building before he can even think of a word to say. She turns at the door, waves, and vanishes inside. Ronan just sits there in the dark car for a long time, a hand on the spot, her lips touched. Feels. Feeling less like a 50-year-old man made of violence and more like a teenager who just got his first taste of grace. His phone buzzes, shattering the moment. Luca's name on the screen. "What?" Ronan barks into the phone, his voice rough. "We have a problem." Feels. The shipment from Marseille, customs flagged it. They're asking questions. Reality comes crashing back down with a sickening thud. The world he'd managed to keep away for 3 perfect hours is back with a vengeance. "I'm on my way." 20 minutes, Feels, Ronan says and kills the call. Feels. He takes one last look at the light in Elena's window before pointing the car towards the warehouse district, back to the life he's paying for. The next few weeks become a twisted balancing act. Ronan's days are a checklist of his criminal life. Feels. Tense meetups with sketchy dudes, cargo getting shoved through ports with threats and cash, and problems getting solved with fists and bullets. He'd spent decades building an empire on fear. Feels. A machine that always needed more blood and grease to keep running. But Thursdays were sacred. Thursdays were for Elena. A new routine starts to form. Dinner at Osteria del Luna, long walks through Palermo's old streets, and coffee by the black, Feels, quiet water. Feels. So sometimes they'd just talk for hours, easy as anything. Other times they'd sit in a silence that was way louder than words. Elena would ask about his life, and Ronan would drop some carefully selected truths. Never lies. Feels. But definitely not the whole bloody story. She dished on her past too. A busted engagement in LA with some dude who wanted a trophy wife, not an actual partner. Then she hits him with the heavy stuff. Her parents, feels, gone in a flash after a car wreck when she was 23. Total trauma that sent her drifting, looking for something she couldn't even name. I think that's why I kept moving. She tells him one freezing night, all bundled up next to him. Feels. If I don't put down roots, I can't feel the pain when they get ripped out. Feels. And now, she looks right at him, her breath making clouds in the cold. Now I'm tired of playing it safe. And bam, that's when Ronan kisses her. It was a total surrender, the walls he built so damn high just turning to dust. Feels. All he could register was coffee on her lips, and the idea of a future he never, ever thought he could have. He feels her gasp, which turns into something else entirely, and in that split second, his ironclad self-control just shatters. Feels. They end up at his villa that night. A place he hadn't stepped foot in for 3 years, a house that was more like a tomb than a home. Elena's walking through the dead silent rooms, touching stuff, asking about the pictures on the mantle. That's Mateo, feels. Ronan says, his voice like a ton of bricks, as she stops at a photo of a kid, maybe 14, with his dad's eyes, caught in a moment of pure unfiltered happiness. Feels. Your son? Not a question. It was a statement. She already knew. She dug up the cold, hard news stories when she was looking into him. Elena turns, and her eyes are just screaming that she gets it. You don't have to talk about it. But here's the thing. Feels. He realized he had to. Maybe he'd been waiting 3 goddamn years for someone he could actually trust with the confession. He was 15. Ronan's voice was pure gravel, every word scraping its way out. Caught in a firefight. A bullet meant for me. Feels. Wrong place, wrong time. My fault, he says it again, twisting the knife. Ronan, it was my fault. He died because of what I am. Because I was arrogant enough to think I could build a wall around him. Keep my world from ever touching his. I was dead wrong. Feels. Elena closes the distance, her hands coming up to his face, forcing him to look at her. It wasn't your fault. You didn't pull the trigger. Might as well have. No. Someone else made a choice that day. Someone else ripped him away from you. Feels. Her thumbs trace his cheekbones, and I am so unbelievably sorry that happened, but you can't carry this burden alone forever. It'll eat you alive. Maybe I deserve to be eaten alive. Well, I don't think so. She pulls him down, forehead to forehead. Feels. And I'm not leaving. So you're just going to have to get used to me telling you you're wrong. And just like that, something inside Ronan, some major support beam in his soul, just gives way. He grabs her, feels, holding on like a drowning man who just found the last piece of driftwood, and in that huge empty house maybe she was, feels. When the kiss finally happens, it isn't gentle. Nope. It was a straight-up, desperate, honest collapse. A release valve for every single thing he'd kept locked down for years. He'd almost forgotten what it felt like. They make their way to the bedroom, feels. Ronan undresses her slowly, carefully, like she was some ghost he was afraid of scaring away. Elena just waits, her eyes telling him she knew this was about way more than just sex. This was him giving up that iron-fisted control, feels. This was him showing her the absolute wreckage inside and just praying she wouldn't bolt. She didn't. In the silence afterward, she curls up against him, her hand on his chest. Ronan stays awake, just listening to her breathe, feeling this weird, feels, freaky sensation that felt a lot like happiness, while also picturing all the horrible ways this was destined to end. Feels. The sun comes up way too fast. Elena stretches, a little smile on her face as she looks at him. I should probably get home. Got a shift at 4. Don't go. I can't. Jeppy's rolling out a new menu, and he's a nightmare if I'm not there to be his taste tester. Feels. She kisses his jaw. But I'm off tomorrow. We could do this again. The sleeping part. Maybe the other parts too. I'd like that. He just watches her get dressed, putting on yesterday's clothes, twisting up her hair. At the door, she stops. Thank you, she says. Feels. For what? For letting me in. I know how much that sucks for you. Feels. Her hand on his face is one last little touch before the silence slams back down. I meant what I said last night, she tells him. A promise of sticking around in a life that's been all about leaving. I'm not going anywhere. And just like that, she's gone. Feels, leaving Ronan alone in the echoing quiet of the villa. Her smell is on his pillows, a ghost that makes his chest ache in a way he refuses to think about. Then his phone screeches, tearing the quiet apart. It's Luca. Of course it is. We need to meet. Feels. His number 2 says, skipping all the normal people pleasantries. There's a development. Ronan squeezes his eyes shut, like that'll stop what's coming. What kind? The kind we don't talk about on the phone. 1 hour. The usual place. Feels. The usual place was some busted warehouse on the edge of the city, a concrete tomb for conversations that had to be sterile. When he gets there, Luca is waiting with 3 other guys, men Ronan trusted as much as his world allowed. Heels. Which is to say, not at all. Spill it, Ronan orders. Luca holds out his phone. It's a series of pictures. Grainy, shot at night, Elena, leaving the restaurant. Elena walking through the city. Elena standing right outside his villa. You can't mistake her. Heels. Source? Ronan's voice goes flat, turning into a weapon. Don't know. Not yet. They were slipped to Marco this morning. With this, Luca hands him a folded piece of paper. The message was brutally simple. The kingpin has found something precious. Heels. How unfortunate. Ronan's fist crumbles the paper into a pulp. I want the name of who sent this by sundown. We're on it, Luca says. But Ronan, you have to see what this is. I know exactly what it is, he snaps. It was a threat. It was a death sentence. Heels. Some shadow enemy found out about him and Elena, turning her from a person into a tactical weakness. The playbook for this kind of situation was cold, simple, and absolute. Cut her loose now. The only smart move was to sever all ties. Heels. To burn the bridge before the whole situation turned into a bloodbath. He'd have to push her away, make her hate his guts, basically shielding her with the very distance he created. Ronan's entire life was built on this kind of brutal math. And yet, Heels. The idea of surgically removing Elena from his life felt like a crushing weight on his chest, like he was slowly suffocating. Double security at the restaurant, he orders instead. I want eyes on Elena 24/7. She is never, Heels, under any circumstances to be left alone. Heels. Keeping a constant watch on her without her catching on was going to be a massive headache. But the order was clear. She can't get suspicious. With that one command, Ronin made it crystal clear to his second-in-command what was at stake. Heels. If a single hair on her head is touched, I will burn this city to the ground. That wasn't a threat. It was a goddamn weather forecast, a peek into the possessive, destructive monster inside him. Luca just nods slowly. He gets it. Heels. The stakes are apocalyptic. The next Thursday, Ronin walks into Osteria del Luna and can feel the change in the air. He spots the new faces, his guys blended perfectly into the crowd. His verdict perfect, almost impossible to spot. Heels. A grim little pat on the back for his own paranoia. Marco had followed his orders to the letter. Elena moves around with her usual grace, but Ronan can see the question in her eyes. She feels it. Are you all right? She asks. Heels, her voice low as she puts his wine down. Heels. He looked like a walking time bomb. A textbook definition of a guy under extreme stress. She throws him a lifeline. Wanna talk about it? He didn't. She holds his gaze for a long, hard second, reading the hurricane inside him before she finally backs off. Heels. Okay, but I'm here if you change your mind. Her being so close was the whole problem. She was right here in his world, in his head, which meant she was dead center in his enemy's crosshairs. He couldn't square his insane need for her with the cold, Heels. Hard logic that screamed at him to throw her out for her own good. The rest of the meal was a joke, them pretending to be normal. When she joins him after her shift, a ritual they'd had for months, the moment felt both perfect and totally doomed. Heels. I've been thinking, she starts. A dangerous habit, he shoots back, a weak attempt to dodge. She kicks him playfully under the table. I want a real apartment, she says. No more living out of a suitcase. Heels. She's talking about a future, college classes, putting down roots. And for Ronan, every single word is another brick on his chest. Get this. He's been chilling in the same city for almost 6 months, a personal best for a guy who never stops moving. Heels. He blames the city, the job. But then she drops the real reason, blushing as she admits it. The company. And what does our boy do? He feeds the delusion, you should do it. Bro is literally twisting the knife on himself. Heels. I think you should do whatever makes you happy. Her fingers slide into his, making it real. You make me happy, she says, basically handing him all the responsibility for her heart. She even admits how fast things are moving. Heels. Brushing off his mysterious business, a choice to stay blind to the giant, flashing warning signs she has to be feeling. This is a masterclass in seeing what you want to see. Heels. Ronan, for the first time in forever, I'm actually happy. This isn't a confession. It's a straight-up gut punch that cranks his internal crisis to 11. He gets this massive urge to just spill it all, to show her the cracked, Heels, monstrous foundation she's building her entire life on. But the words die in his throat, strangled by fear and the sheer arrogance of thinking he can actually control the fallout when this all blows up. So he takes the coward's way out, Heels, just echoing her words back. I'm happy too. The megawatt smile he gets in return is pure poison. The next 3 weeks are a total fantasy, a fake peace, feels. Ronan actually lets himself believe he can be a violent gangster by day and come home to a normal life at night, as if those two worlds won't eventually collide and rip everything apart. Meanwhile, Elena is nesting hard, feels, getting an apartment and filling his silent villa with actual life, feels. His entire intelligence network comes up with absolutely nothing. Not a single clue about where those photos came from. The official threat level gets lowered. Luca figures it was just a bluff, some two-bit rival playing mind games, feels. Ronan wants to believe this so badly that he lets his guard down, gets sloppy. Then the call comes. It's a Tuesday, a day he's always hated. The voice is a messed up digital rasp. A pro, we have her. 2 words, feels. That's all it takes to detonate his entire world. The American girl, your weakness. They took his deepest fear and threw it right back in his face. Every muscle in Ronan's body turns to stone. If you have harmed her, he starts, feels, but the voice cuts him off, ice cold, not yet, feels. What happens next, the distorted voice goes on, is entirely your decision, a perfectly timed pause. You have something that belongs to us. Then comes the demand, cold and clinical. The shipment from Marseille, feels, the one he so expertly snuck past customs. We require it. Ronan's replies pure reflex, pure pride. Impossible. The kidnapper lays out the terms like he's balancing a spreadsheet. Then the girl will die. It's simple economics, Mr. Ronan. 1 life, feels, in exchange for several million in merchandise. The choice is designed to be brutally simple. The line goes dead. Ronan's training kicks in instantly. He dials Elena, straight to a dead-end voicemail. He calls the restaurant. Marco answers, feels. Ronan skips the pleasantries. Is Elena there? Nope. She left an hour ago, saying she was running an errand for him. A total lie. What is going on? But Ronan is already gone, grabbing keys, a piece, his phone. Feels. Lock down the restaurant, he snarls into the phone. Nobody in or out until I say so. Scene controls everything. His next call is to Luca. They have Elena. He starts handing out orders for the hunt. I want every asset we have on this. Find her, feels. He explains the leverage, the Marseille shipment. By now he's in his car, flooring it toward Elena's apartment. A place he knows she won't be, but he has to check anyway. It's a ritual. His voice is raw. I need every address you can find. Warehouses, feels. Empty lots. And I needed them 5 minutes ago. When Luca starts asking about the shipment, Ronan's answer is absolute. I don't give a damn about the shipment. Find her. This wasn't some emotional outburst. Nah, this was a cold, hard recalculation, feels. The hit to his pride, to his power, was now way more valuable than any cargo, feels. Her apartment is an empty shell. The door's unlocked, purse on the counter. The whole scene is staged to look like she just popped out for a second. Every store owner in the neighborhood gives him nothing. She's just gone. Then his phone rings again, feels. Same messed up digital voice, but this is no longer a negotiation. The old cannery, via Messina, midnight. Show up with the shipment's location, or show up to collect a body. Your choice. Ronan slams on the brakes, feels, forcing the raw adrenaline back down with cold, hard strategy. He starts breaking down his enemy's moves. This was no random snatch and grab. The timing, the isolation, this points to days of surveillance, feels, a plan that was set in motion the second he saw those photos. Feels. He lands on the only conclusion that makes any sense. This is his fault. A total screw-up born from his own arrogance. A catastrophic failure of risk assessment. He knew the danger but went ahead anyway, feels. Clinging to this narcissistic belief that he had everything under control. He was dead wrong. Luca's voice comes over the phone with new intel. 3 possible spots, all connected to some guy named Santoro. Ronan's own file on the dude is thin. A nobody, feels. Ambitious but foolish. A lethal combination. He runs a check. Which one of those is on Via Messina? The abandoned fish cannery. He's got it. That's the spot. Ronan is already whipping the car around. Get a team. Ready to move. Full tactical. Feels. We go in hard and we go in fast. Luca's voice is the only thing keeping him grounded. A sharp warning. A hard entry is a death sentence for the hostage. Feels. Ronan's reply is pure, cold, tactical fact. He'll kill her anyway if I don't. He's already mapped out Santoro's brain and there's no path to a long talk. The real goals were always simple. Get the shipment and get rid of Ronan. Feels. Elena was just the bait to make the second part happen. His rage burns off, transforming into that familiar ice-cold operational clarity, a state of mind where you don't debate problems, you solve them with overwhelming force. Feels. He thinks about the person he was for Elena, that softer, more human version of himself. Yeah, that guy's gone now. The men who took her are about to get a formal introduction to who he really is, and they are absolutely going to regret it. Eels. As midnight hits, a sea fog rolls in, wrapping the world in gray. Eels. The cannery rises out of the mist like a skeleton of a dead factory. Ronan leads his 9-man team from the south, with Luca as his number 2. They move like a single organism, a weapon that bends to his will. His orders are cut down to the bone. Eels. Remember, Elena comes out first. She is the only non-negotiable asset, the main objective. The team closes in with a silent, predatory grace. Ronan scopes out Santoro's security. 2 lookouts at the door, 3 more on a lazy patrol. Eels. His judgment is instant and full of contempt. This isn't security, it's arrogance. These are fatal mistakes in the brutal math of their business. The guards outside are taken out without making a sound. Eels. Their silent exits proving the massive skill gap between them and Ronan's crew. Eels. Right, so inside this massive building you can hear voices bouncing off the crazy high ceilings. Ronan moves in like a shadow, a total predator mapping out the whole scene. He finds his angle, gets a perfect line of sight, and boom. Visual confirmed. Eels. There's Elena, tied to a chair dead center, mouth covered in duct tape. Her hair's matted with blood, but her eyes are wide open, and she is locked in. She sees him across the room, and you can practically see her pupils pop. Eels. Santoro's standing right next to her, pistol pressed to her head like it grew there, backed by 4 of his goons. Right on time, Santoro smirks, mocking Ronan's infamous professionalism. Let her go, Ronan says, his voice totally flat. Zero emotion. Eels. She's not part of this. Santoro just laughs, a nasty grating sound. Are you kidding? From where I'm standing, she's the main event. He grabs a fistful of Elena's hair and yanks her head back. Eels. A pained grunt escapes Elena, and that's it. Ronan's world goes blood red, a full-on chemical surge of pure rage. You got my stuff? Santoro demands. First proof of condition. Ronan shoots back, demanding to know she's okay. You can see her just fine. Eels. I need to hear her. I need proof of life. Santoro thinks for a sec, then just rips the tape off her mouth in one brutal pull. She gasps for air. Ronan, she chokes out, voice shockingly steady. Don't give them anything. Absolute defiance. Eels. A totally unexpected power move. Maybe she's already starting to side with the only other badass in the room. Santoro backhands her across the face, the sound echoing through the dead quiet. Ronan instinctively lunges, but his boy Luca grabs his arm, Eels, holding him back. But Santoro saw it. His smile turns toxic. Oh, this is way better than I planned. You actually give a damn about her. Eels. He drags the barrel of the gun along Elena's jawline. Tell me, Ronan, is she worth millions in product? Is she worth your entire reputation? He's poking the bear now, trying to figure out just how deep this new weakness goes. Name your price, Eels. Ronan counters, trying to drag this chaos back to a simple transaction he can control. Money, turf, the shipment. It's all trash. Just let her go. Santoro shakes his head like Ronan just told a bad joke. That's where you screwed up, Eels. You're still acting like you're the one calling the shots here. He jams the gun harder against her skin. I don't just want the shipment, I want it all. He means wiping him off the map, the organization, the network, the name Ronan itself, Eels. And you're going to hand it over. Because if you don't, I'll end her and I'll make you watch. Elena's eyes stay glued to Ronan, her only hope in a world that's completely falling apart. Eels. Even terrified and bleeding, Elena was showing this weird, tragic loyalty, a misplaced bet. Her captor, Santoro, goes full movie villain, the countdown, 10, 9, 8. Ronan whips up his pistol, and the world goes black. Total sudden darkness, Eels, followed by a sound blast from all directions that just rips the air apart. Ronan moves through the chaos he created, navigating from the mental map he already built, closing the distance to Elena with insane focus. Eels. While Santoro is screaming in the dark, Elena makes a final desperate play and throws her whole body sideways. Ronan's already there. He slices her ties and pulls her into him. His words, I have you, weren't just a promise. Eels, they were a brand seared into her brain at peak terror. A shout from the darkness. He pivots, his gun fires twice. Eels. Santoro hits the floor, his pistol clattering away. The entire fight was over in less than 30 seconds. Luca fades out of the shadows, his report short and final. Areas clear, all hostiles down. Eels. Ronan scoops Elena up and carries her out of that slaughterhouse. Her body is shaking uncontrollably, a massive stress reaction, but her arms automatically wrap around his neck, holding on for dear life. Her whispered words, "You came for me," Eels, were the sound of a deal being sealed in blood and fear. His reply was a stone-cold fact. Of course I came for you. She starts to question the choice he had to make. There was no choice, Ronan tells her, Eels. basically rewriting her entire universe to make her the only thing in it, the one piece that mattered more than anything else. He takes her straight to a private dock, pulling her deeper and deeper into his completely sealed-off world. Feels. The dock's report says she's physically going to be fine. A concussion, some bruises, nothing that won't heal. The damage to her mind, though, that's a whole other story. Ronan stays by her side through the whole checkup, his presence a constant, feels. Physical reminder that he's the one who saved her. His own mind is a hurricane of what-ifs and worst-case scenarios. The silent price you pay when you almost lose something priceless. When they get back to his place at dawn, feels. Her beat-up body finally gives out and she crashes. Ronan just watches her sleep, standing guard. A message from Luca confirms the mission was a total success. Santoro's entire crew is being taken apart, piece by piece. The threat isn't just gone, feels it's being erased from existence. Ronan's next order was simple. Put Elena under 24/7 surveillance, feels. I need to know the second she does anything out of the ordinary. Then he lies down on the bed next to her, a silent guardian. For the first time since the single worst day of his life, the day he buried his own son, Ronan lets his iron control crack, feels. Elena wakes up to the sound of breathing, her body automatically matching Ronan's steady rhythm. After a second of post-trauma confusion, the memories come flooding back, triggered by a sharp pain from her ribs. She turns her head and sees him, feels. He's asleep, but it's not a peaceful sleep. She sees the hard line of his jaw, the tension around his mouth, the dead giveaway signs of a man whose mind is a fortress that's always under attack. Feels. He killed for her. She saw the aftermath, the human garbage he carried her through. She watched the man she thought she knew peel off a mask to show a creature that was colder, faster, and more brutally efficient than she ever could have imagined. Feels. And he did it all for her. It was a terrifying, complete reboot of her reality. Elena reaches out, her fingers lightly, hesitantly, tracing the hard line of his jaw. Ronan snaps awake instantly, his whole body tensing up, ready for a fight. Hey, feels, she whispers. How do you feel? His hand comes up to her face, his thumb stroking the bruised skin on her cheek with an impossible gentleness, like I was kidnapped and tortured by a psycho. Feels. A tiny smile plays on her lips. Could have been worse, you know. Elena. No, he starts to talk, but she cuts off the apology she knows is coming. The same old script of his guilt by putting her fingers on his lips. She wasn't going to let him tell her to run, feels, to save herself from him. Ronan's hand covers hers, pressing it against the frantic beat of his heart. You need to get as far away from me as possible. Way too late for that. I'm a terrible runner. I think I told you that months ago, feels. Every move she makes toward him is a painful argument with her bruised ribs. What happened last night wasn't your fault. It was the fault of a man who thinks people are just currency. It happened because I was near you. Yep, and I'm still here. Feels. I am still actively choosing to be near you. Elena's eyes lock with his, making an unbreakable connection. I'm not going to pretend last night wasn't terrifying. Feels. And I'm not going to act like finding out the man I love is some kind of underworld king doesn't require a major adjustment. But I'm not leaving. So, you can either accept it, or you can wear yourself out trying to push me away. And I promise you, feels, my stubbornness is way stronger than your willpower. Something in his eyes just breaks, a wave of relief so huge it almost looks like pain. You have no idea what you're saying. I know exactly what I'm saying. For the last 6 months, feels, I've been falling for the real you, not some carefully built fake person. And while I didn't know the details of your business, I'm not an idiot, Ronan. Feels. I knew you weren't selling olive oil, or whatever lame story you were telling. You did? Let's just say I had my suspicions. Which isn't the same thing. Her hand goes back to his face, a soft touch against his hard features. Feels. My guess was you were involved in something huge and almost definitely illegal. I also knew you were kind to me, fiercely protective of your people, and that you were being eaten alive by some kind of deep-seated grief. Feels. Those were the things that mattered more. They shouldn't have. And yet they did. They still do. Elena takes a shaky breath. Is it okay if I ask you something? Anything. The man who took me, Santoro, is he gone? Not even a flicker of emotion on Ronan's face. Feels. Yes. Did you do it? Yes. She gives a slow, deliberate nod, a single gesture that held a universe of acceptance. In the movies, this is the part where the girl is supposed to freak out. Feels. But all Elena could see was the dead look in Santoro's eyes, feel that bone-chilling indifference as he got ready to snuff her out. And then Ronan's face when he got to her, a terrifying, incredible picture of pure rage, fear, feels, and a love so raw it was animalistic. Okay, she finally breathed out. Ronan's brow furrowed, totally lost. Okay. I'm not about to cheer for brutality, that's not who I am. But I'm not going to stand here and pretend I wish you were still taking up oxygen. Eels. Just biding his time to come after me again. Her eyes drilled into his. I'm grateful you came. I'm grateful I'm alive. And if that makes me a monster, well, I guess that's what I'll have to be. He wrapped her up in his arms, heels, impossibly gentle around her injuries, and buried his face in her hair. You are not a monster, heels. You are the single best human being I have ever had the honor of knowing. That's a shockingly low bar if my competition is kidnappers and mob bosses. Elena, I'm sorry. Making bad jokes at the worst times is how I cope. She leaned into his shoulder, heels. Can we just stay like this for a bit? I really don't want to process anything else right now. And so they did. They stayed right there as the morning sun climbed the sky, casting long shadows across the room, heels, while the world outside kept spinning on without a care. Ronan's phone buzzed non-stop on the nightstand, a string of calls he was deliberately ignoring, while Elena kept falling into a restless, light sleep, heels, only to be jolted awake by violent flashes of memory that made her gasp. And every single time Ronan was there, a solid rock in the darkness, his presence yanking her back from the brink of a scream. Heels. Around midday, a sharp knock on the bedroom door cracked the quiet. Luca's muffled voice came through. Ronan, we need to talk. Not now. This is urgent. A soft curse escaped Ronan's lips. 5 minutes. He started to pull away. Heels. But Elena's hand shot out and grabbed his. It's fine. Go. Take care of whatever fire you need to put out. I'm not going anywhere.
I will be right back.
I know. She followed him with her eyes until the door clicked shut before she slowly, heels, and with a lot of pain, pushed herself up to sit. Across the room, her reflection in a big mirror was a monument to brutality. The bruised and swollen face of a complete stranger stared back at her, with dried blood caked at her hairline. Heels. She looked like a woman who had walked through hell and barely crawled out the other side. Heels. She looked like someone who now had a choice to make. For her whole adult life, Elena had bolted from anything that got too hard, too messy, too real. She had convinced herself that being unattached meant being safe, that if you never planted roots, heels, you could never be torn out of the ground. But back in that warehouse, when dying was a stone-cold certainty, and the idea of never seeing Ronan again was a pain sharper than any physical blow, she had a brutal epiphany. Heels. There is no such thing as being perfectly safe. You can spend your whole life running and still make one wrong turn. The only real choice you get is deciding what or who makes the risk of living worth it. And for her, that was Ronan, heels. She found a robe in his closet and went downstairs, drawn by the sound voices. Ronan and Luca, a fast and urgent stream of Italian spilling out of his office. Heels. Elena could probably only pick out one word in 5, but the tone was a universal language. It was the sound of a world burning down. She knocked lightly on the open door. The two men fell silent. Sorry, she said. I didn't mean to interrupt. Heels. I just came down for coffee. The kitchen is that way, Ronan pointed, his expression tight. I'll get you something. You're in the middle of something. I can manage, Elena. Ronan, I have successfully made my own coffee for 32 years. Heels. I'm pretty sure I can handle your high-tech machine. She gave a weak smile. Besides, you two have things to deal with. I'll stay out of your hair. She turned before he could argue, found the kitchen, Heels, and after a humbling 10-minute battle with a coffee machine from the future, she found a simple drip coffee maker in a back cupboard. The familiar routine settled something inside her. Heels. A normal ritual on a day that was anything but. Luca showed up in the doorway just as she was pouring a second cup. Up close, he looked younger than she'd thought, maybe in his mid-30s with sharp eyes and the rigid posture of a military man. Heels. Signorina Hart, he began. I want to apologize for what happened. We should have kept a closer watch. We should have predicted Santoro. His English was perfect, with almost no accent. What happened was a professional failure. Elena clutched the warm mug. Heels. You had no way of knowing. It is our job, to know, to protect the people Ronan values. Luca paused, his look sharp. He has changed with you. Improved. We've all seen it. Changed. Heels. In what way? He's engaged. He's present. Before you got here, he was a ghost, just going through the motions. Now, it's like he's actually living again. The professional mask on Luca's face cracked for just a second. I knew his son. Matteo was a good kid. Heels. After he passed, we all thought we'd lost Ronan too. Not his body, but the man himself. Then you showed up, causing some trouble at his table, and something huge shifted. You didn't fit in. You were everything. Heels. You made him remember what it was like to be human. Luca took out his phone, his thumb swiping across the screen. I'm assigning a protection detail to you. A two-man unit on rotation. You won't see them, but they'll be there. Is that really necessary now? Heels. It is absolutely necessary. Heels. He held her gaze. Santoro isn't the only one who will see you as a weak spot. The news is already getting around. Ronan Vale has a vulnerability. That news makes you a target. The cold, matter-of-fact way he said it tied an icy knot in her stomach. Heels. So what am I supposed to do? Live like some prisoner? Never leave this house? Live your life. But live it knowing that you are never ever alone. Luca's phone buzzed. He glanced down, his face unreadable, before looking back at her. I have to go. But, Heels. Signorina Hart, Elena, if you need anything, at any time, you call me. The trust Ronan has in you. It's a trust we all share. He left, leaving her alone with her coffee and the massive weight of this new life. This was way more than a complicated relationship, Heels. This was an initiation into a world with its own savage rules, a world of shadows, sudden violence, and ultimate consequences. Heels. Elena thought of her apartment, her career, the uncomplicated, quiet life she had fought to build. She could call Marco, tell him she was quitting. She could toss some clothes in a bag, book a flight, Heels, and vanish to some place where men didn't carry guns and pull women out of disgusting warehouses. Then she pictured Ronan's face when he found her last night. The raw honesty in his voice when he said, "It was only ever you," Heels. She put her coffee mug on the counter with a quiet, firm click and went to find him. He was still in the study, alone now, staring at a laptop screen but not seeing a thing. He looked up as she entered. You need to be resting. I need to be a lot of things. Heels. Smarter, probably. Definitely better at running away. Heels. She moved through the dim room to his desk, sitting on the hard edge. But I'm not. And that fact has brought us right to this moment. Elena, the thing you need to understand is, she cut him off, her voice unshakable, not the operational stuff. Heels. I don't need to know the business, but I have to know exactly what being with you means, what it is I would be signing up for. Ronan leaned back, the leather of the chair groaning. It means danger. A life where you can never really let your guard down. Heels. It means my enemies will see you as a tool to use against me. I get that. What else? It means I can't give you a normal life. I can't give you the things other women take for granted. Quiet dinners in a restaurant where we aren't surrounded by security. Heels. A vacation that isn't built around potential escape plans. A personal history that doesn't have a body count. Heels. I was never very good at normal, anyway. Elena closed the space between them, her fingers wrapping around his hand. What can you promise me? He was quiet for a long moment, the silence stretching out. I can promise that I will use every weapon, Heels, every resource at my command to keep you safe, that I will never lie to you about who I am or what I do, and that if a day ever comes when you can't live this life anymore, I will let you go. No questions asked, no complications. And if I decide not to go, Heels, then I promise to love you with everything I am, to try to be a man who is worthy of you. His thumb drew slow circles on her palm. But Elena, you have to look at this with your eyes open. What happened last night? That is my world, Heels. It is violence and shadows and choices that don't have right answers. Heels. That's not going to change just because I want it to. I'm not asking you to change the game. I'm asking if I have a spot in it. There's a spot. There always was. He carefully pulls her from the desk onto his lap, minding her busted ribs. Heels. But I have to know you're all in. Elena looks at this guy who in 6 months became her entire world, a man who showed her pain, insane violence, and a softness that wrecked her. He literally killed for her and then cried about it while she was asleep. Heels. I'm certain, she whispers. And then he kisses her, slow, deliberate, like he's sealing a deal with her soul. And Elena feels something new lock into place. This ain't peace, it's resolve. The bone-deep certainty that whatever hell comes next, Heels, she's walking into it with him, eyes wide open. As they pull apart, Ronan just rests his forehead against hers. Heels. I don't deserve you. Facts? But you're stuck with me now. Guess I'm a lucky guy. Yeah, Elena agrees, a tiny smirk playing on her lips. Very lucky for you. So the days that followed got a new rhythm. Elena went right back to her job, Heels, shutting down Ronan's protests, refusing to let some psycho dictate her life. Her security detail is now a woman, Sophia, and a dude named Marco, a stone-faced ex-soldier who's been with Ronan for years. They're total pros, quiet shadows at her back, Heels. After a while, she could almost forget they were there. Almost. The second Jeppy sees her, he just breaks down, unleashing a tidal wave of Italian curses aimed straight at Santoro's ghost. Heels. For a solid hour, the kitchen crew tiptoes around her like she's a bomb until her blunt answer to "you okay" snaps them out of it. Marco, the owner, pulls her aside before she starts. "Senorina Lena, if you need more time." "I don't. I need to work." Heels. "I need normal." She ties her apron with a sharp tug. "Besides, if you leave me alone with my thoughts right now, I'll definitely lose my mind." He nods, his face etched with a look of total understanding. "Then you work, but I'll let you know if that changes." Heels. "Got it." Ronan rolls up to the restaurant that Thursday, same as always. This time, though, before he even sees a menu, Elena ditches her tables and slides into the seat across from him. Heels. "Hey," she says, voice low. "Hey." He just watches her, his expression a wild mix of shock and wonder, like he still can't believe she's real. "How was your day?" "Long. My feet are killing me." Heels. "And I'm 90% sure Jeppy tried to murder me with a new garlic sauce." She reaches over and takes his hand, her fingers lacing with his on the tablecloth. "But it was good. It was normal. I needed normal. I'm glad." They just sit like that for a second. Heels. A quiet island in the middle of the restaurant's chaos, hands locked together. Then Elena drops the bomb. "Tell me about Mateo." The armor on Ronan's face just cracks. "Elena, I need to know. Not because I'm morbid, but because he was important to you." Heels. "And that makes him important to me." She squeezes his hand. "You don't have to, not if you're not ready. But I'm ready to listen." He stays silent for so long she thinks he's going to shut her down. Then in a quiet voice, he starts talking. Heels. He was obsessed with music, wanted to be a composer. He'd sit at the piano for hours and drive his mother up the wall. Shadow of a smile hits Ronan's. "He had my temper, but her laugh. He sucked at football, but always wanted to play. A total book nerd." Heels. "He had books with him everywhere, even at the damn dinner table." He sounds amazing. He was every single good thing that ever happened to me." Ronan's voice gets rough. His mom died when he was 8, cancer. After that, it was just us. Heels. "I tried to build a firewall between my world and his, but he was too damn smart. He knew what I did. It was a huge fight between us all the time. What did he want you to do? Get out. Just walk away from all of it. Use our money to start a legit business." Heels. Ronan looks down at their connected hands. He had this entire plan worked out. "We'd move to the coast, open a little restaurant, and just live. He said I could learn how to cook. He'd pick the music for the dining room. It was a nice dream. Why didn't you?" Heels. "Arrogance. I thought I could run both worlds, the business and a real life. I thought being smart and careful and powerful was enough to keep it all separate." A muscle jumps in his jaw. "I was wrong." Elena feels this deep, empty ache for him. Heels. For the guy he must have been before this loss ripped everything good out of him. How did it happen? "A car bomb. It was meant for me, but my meeting went long. I had my driver pick Mateo up from school. They were 2 blocks from our house when it went off." Heels. Ronan's voice is completely flat now, totally dead inside. Heels. It's the sound of a guy who's told a horror story so many times it's just a script. Except it's not. The pain is right there, carved into the lines around his eyes. He died instantly. So did the driver. They made me identify what was left. Heels. "Ronan, I hunted down every single person who had a hand in it. It took me 6 months, but I found every last one of them. I made sure they knew exactly who they took from me before I killed them." He finally looks up at her. "Does that scare you?" "It should." Heels. Some logical part of her brain is screaming that it should, but all she feels is this massive sadness for a kid she'll never meet and the father he left behind. "No," she says, her voice barely a whisper. "It doesn't. It should. Maybe. But it doesn't." Heels. She gets up, walks around the table, and puts her arms around his shoulders from behind. "I'm so sorry you lost him." Heels. "I can't even imagine what you went through. It's a twisted world that makes a man feel like revenge is the only thing he has left." Ronan's hand covers hers on his chest. A quiet thank you. "I came here every Thursday. It was our thing." Heels. "The day we'd cook together. I thought if I kept up the ritual, he wouldn't feel so gone. The emptiness just got worse. Then the wine. First my screw up, then yours." He turns his head to look up at her, and for the first time in 3 years, Heels. "I felt something that wasn't grief." Elena leans in and kisses the top of his head. "He'd be happy about this, you know, that you're letting yourself live again. You never even met him." Heels. "I know what it's like to lose the people you love. My parents died 6 years ago. Car accident. Just gone. A wrong place, wrong time." She moves to stand in front of him. "And I know they would want me to keep living. To find some happiness." Heels. "To not let their ending be the end of my story. I have to believe Mateo would want the same thing for you." Ronan reaches for her, pulling her right back onto his lap. "Where'd you get so smart? Years of therapy and way too much time stuck in my own head, feels. She gets comfortable against him. We're some pair, huh? Two broken people trying to figure out how to be whole again. Maybe that's enough. Maybe it's more than enough, feels. They stayed like that until the restaurant started buzzing again, until Jep yelled from the kitchen, until the real world crashed back in and Elena had to get back to work. But something huge had changed between them. The last wall was gone, feels. That night, back at the villa, Ronan broke out the pictures. A life in faded colors, baby photos, awkward school pics, shots of a dark-haired boy growing into a young man with his dad's haunted eyes. Elena heard stories about piano concerts, feels, disastrous cooking experiments, and arguments over everything from politics to the right way to make pasta. She got to know Matteo through the pieces of his father's memory, and she grieved for the future that was stolen from both of them, feels. Thank you, Ronan's voice was a low rumble in the dark bedroom after everything went quiet. Elena just burrowed into his side, a perfect fit. For what? For this. For the quiet, for not running from his disaster, feels. For making me feel like more than just a broken thing. You deserve this chance, and so do I. Elena's lips find his shoulder, a silent promise on his unspoken words. We both deserve to be happy, no matter how jacked up the road to get here was, feels, even when it involves an abduction. Please don't joke about the abduction. Too soon? A faint smile goes across his skin. Too soon. Right. I'll work on my material. Elena, her name was just a breath. I love you, feels. The words just hung there, so simple and so real it was terrifying. Elena tilted her head, finding his eyes in the dark. I love you too, feels. And right there, in the quiet of a gangster's bedroom with the ocean breathing below, two shattered souls found a reason to finally let themselves heal, feels. The weeks that followed weren't exactly peaceful. Elena kept getting dragged back to the cannery in her nightmares, waking up totally lost until Ronan's voice pulled her out of it. Loud sounds made her jump. She couldn't stand an open door behind her, feels. It got so bad she had this desperate, maybe even unhealthy, need to know where he was at all times. But she was also laughing again. She was working, starting to imagine a future that lasted longer than a week. Her Italian lessons got serious, feels. A burning need to understand the world she was in, and she even took over a spare room, turning it into a study for online literature classes, her one connection to her old life. Ronan, for his part, feels, seemed dead set on being a guy she could actually commit to. He showed her a side of Palermo no tourist ever sees and, super cautiously, started introducing her to his crew, feels, always with Sofia and Marco there as a buffer in a slow-motion campaign to make her part of his world, feels. He'd bring her these little presents, small things that were basically proof he was watching her every move. They fought all the time. Total blow-ups over her safety, the way his protection was basically suffocating her, feels, or how he'd try to plan her life like she was just an object. But Elena stood her ground, flat out refusing to be treated like she was made of glass, demanding to be his partner, not just some prize to be locked away. Slowly, feels, and not without some major growing pains, Ronan started to let her in, to trust that she could handle the ugly truth of his world, and to finally buy that her love wasn't some delicate thing that would break if he stopped pretending to be a better man, feels. 2 months after the kidnapping, Elena woke up and found Ronan just staring at her, his face totally unreadable. What? She mumbled, her voice all scratchy with sleep. Marry me. The words sliced through the quiet, and just like that, sleep was gone. Feels. What? Marry me, he said again, his voice exactly the same. I know it's fast. I know we're supposed to do this the right way, but I'm done waiting. Feels. I've already lost 3 years in a living hell, and I'm not about to waste another second. Elena pushed herself up, the sheets pooling around her. Are you for real proposing to me at 6 in the morning, before I've even had my coffee? Is that a no? Feels. The answer is, I need you to ask me again when my brain is actually working and maybe when a ring is involved. She poked him right in the chest, over his heart. This is a big deal, Ronan. You don't get to phone it in. A slow smile spread across his face. Feels. So, not a no. It's a do it right and we'll see. He leaned over and gave her this deep, soul-stealing kiss that pretty much short-circuited her brain, and Elena figured maybe she didn't need that coffee after all. 3 days later, feels. Ronan took her to dinner at a restaurant carved straight out of a cliff that dropped right into the dark ocean. Feels. They ate slowly, their conversation carefully avoiding anything important. Then dessert showed up. Something Ronan, in a total break from his usual self, had insisted they order. And there, sitting in a pile of tiramisu, was a ring. Is this better? He asked. Heels. Elena couldn't look away, with a diamond that caught the candlelight and shattered it into a million tiny sparks. A massive improvement. Elena Hart, Ronan began, his hand covering hers. Heels. You crashed into my life and then just refused to leave. You have seen the absolute worst parts of me, and you're still here. You make me want to be better, to do better, to just exist better. Will you marry me? She was crying, Heels, but she hadn't even realized the tears had started. Yes, Elena choked out through them. Yes, of course, it's yes. He slid the ring on her finger. It fit like it was made for her. Heels. And Elena just thought about the insane chain of events that brought her to this exact moment. The busted engagement in Los Angeles, running away to Palermo, the one stupid second she threw open a kitchen door. Every single screw-up, every bad turn, Heels, every doubt had just been a signpost, pointing to him, to this life, to this future she never even knew she wanted. I love you, she said, the words floating on the night air. I love you too. Ronan pulled her in. Heels. And I swear to you I will spend the rest of my life proving you made the right choice. I already know I did, sitting on a cliff in Sicily, engaged to a man who had killed for her, mourned for her, Heels, and loved her with a fire that should have been terrifying but wasn't. Elena finally understood what it meant to stop running. Heels. It meant standing still long enough for happiness to finally catch up. The engagement set off a chain reaction Elena totally didn't see coming. That ring wasn't just a promise, it was a freaking broadcast. Within 24 hours, Heels, it seemed like the entire criminal underground of Palermo got the memo that Ronan Vale was getting a wife. The reaction was a mixed bag. Some of his associates sent gifts, tacky, Heels, generic stuff that showed up with cards signed with names she'd never heard. Others just went completely silent. A quiet that Luca pointed out could mean they either hated the idea or were just holding their breath to see what happened next. Heels. And then there were the chosen few, the guys Ronan trusted with his life, who came to the villa for a formal inspection. Heels. They need to see that you're real, Ronan explained the morning the first guy was due to show up. To figure out if this is a real marriage, or if I'm just having some kind of massive midlife crisis. Elena looked up from her coffee. Heels. And what's my part in all this? Am I supposed to put on a show? To prove I'm good enough for the great Ronan Vale? I just need you to be yourself. That's the only thing you've ever had to be. Easy for you to say, Heels. You're not the American waitress marrying into the Sicilian mob. I'm hardly royalty, you know what I mean. She slammed her mug down on the table. These men are going to judge me, judge us. And I'm not ready for this, Ronan. My Italian is a disaster, Heels. I don't get the politics. I have no clue how to act inside the power games of your world. Heels. He came around the table, tilting her chin up so she had to look him in the eye. You survived being kidnapped by a man whose only goal in life was to destroy me. You looked that monster in the face and you didn't break. Heels. That is the only resume you will ever need. That's not the same as knowing which fork to use. We are Sicilian, he said, kissing her forehead. We use one fork. Stop worrying. They will love you. They did not love her. Not at first. Heels. The first test was Dante Russo, a guy who ran the eastern side of the island and had known Ronan for 20 years. He walked into the villa with two goons, his face screaming one thing loud and clear. Elena was a problem. Heels. So, Dante said, his English thick and heavy after they did the awkward intros. You are the woman who has stolen our Ronan's heart. I spilled wine on him. Elena shot back, her voice a thin, deliberate defense against his intense stare. Heels. The heart thing came later. Dante's expression didn't even flicker. Do you understand what you are marrying? This life, what's expected, the dangers. I got a pretty good crash course 2 months ago when I was used as bait. So yeah, I get it. Heels. And you're still here. Why? The question was sharp as a knife, but Elena found she actually preferred it that way. Because I love him. Because he makes me happy. Heels. Because the idea of leaving and spending my whole life wondering, what if is a much worse fate than any danger I could ever face with him? Heels. Dante just watched her for a long, silent moment before turning his eyes to Ronan. The verdict came in Italian. She has steel. Good, she will require it. The approval was barely there. Heels. But the wave of relief coming off Ronan was so strong you could practically touch it. After they left, Elena felt her own courage just drain away and she basically collapsed onto the sofa. The performance had completely wiped her out. Heels. Ronan explained later that Dante's whole Iceman's act was a defense, a result of being stabbed in the back before. He then pointed out all the proof of Dante's approval, little things, Heels. like holding the meeting in English so she wasn't left out, and reframed them as huge gestures in their violent reality. The next few weeks were just a parade of similar interviews. Deals. Getting integrated was a wild ride of opposites. A woman named Isabella, who apparently ran gambling rings, liked her instantly, giving her unfiltered advice on how to manage a household when your husband is a literal mob boss. A younger guy, Franco, Eels, was all suspicious and hostile until she basically snapped back at him, a show of force that seemed to flip a switch in his brain and earn his respect. Through all of it, Elena was learning to read between the lines, Eels, to see the invisible maps of power and loyalty that held this world together. The biggest lesson was clear. Loyalty was the only thing that mattered, and you survived by being strong, not by begging for mercy. Eels. The whole thing felt like a high-stakes test she never even signed up for. This is like a final exam for a class I didn't know I was in, she tells Ronan, still feeling the burn from his lieutenants, basically grilling her. Perfect metaphor, Eels. Someone just threw a textbook at me in a language I can't read and was like, good luck. His words helped, but the damage was done. She runs down the screw-up with Carmine, how just mentioning a restaurant was taken as a turf challenge. Feels. A flash of pain hits Ronan's face. He knows Carmine is nuts about his territory. And that was it, her main fear laid bare. She's navigating a minefield of old grudges and invisible lines with no map. The pressure was getting to be too much. Feels, and Elena was starting to crack. Feels. I studied poetry back in California, she says, the words feeling like they're from another planet, a whole different life. Back then, her biggest problem was some academic beef. Now, one wrong syllable could kick off a gang war. Feels. Ronan tries to calm her down, his voice low, spinning this whole brutal initiation as some kind of necessary trial she'll survive. But she finally says the nightmare that's been haunting her. What if she's the one? Feels. The person who makes that one fatal mistake, that one slip-up that gets families killed. He literally pulls her into his arms like a shield and shifts the blame, saying it's not on her, but on some theoretical psycho who dare to flip out. Feels. That would be their problem, their insanity, he whispers, making himself her only safe harbor. Elena just melts into his arms, another stitch in their messed-up story. Then she asks what the world will call her after they get married. Feels. You're already in this world, he replies. Feels. The wedding just puts the ink on the contract. Feels. That's the part that terrifies me. The confession just hangs there, a fear way bigger than getting hitched, forcing him to ask, does she want out? Her answer is a masterclass and it's complicated. No, I don't think so. I don't know. Feels. A little shake in her voice gives her away. I love you, she says, like it's the only thing keeping her from drowning. But I'm so scared that after we do this, the door locks behind me. That this world is the only one I get. Feels. And there's the tragedy right there. She's afraid of a transformation so complete it'll just erase who she used to be. He offers her the perfect, poisoned line of a kind captor. You can walk away whenever you want. I'd never stop you, Feels. But she sees right through that beautiful lie, struggling to name her real terror. Elena Hart is about to die, and some stranger named Elena Vale is about to be born, a queen crowned to rule a violent golden cage. Feels. You don't lose anything. You just become more. Ronan fires back, basically painting the bars of her cage gold. He claims that fire inside her, the very thing that fights him, can't be put out. The ring won't extinguish that fire, he promises. Total lie, Feels. That ring, a cold, heavy weight, is already messing with the physics of her life. Elena sees it in how a waiter suddenly treats her with way too much respect, the way people give her a wide berth, how conversations die the second she walks into a room. Feels. She's not a person anymore. She's becoming a symbol of Ronan Vale's power, a black hole whose gravity she's just now starting to feel. And the life she built for herself, her whole career, it's starting to show some serious cracks. Feels. Her boss, Jeppy, starts handling her like a museum piece about to shatter. Her co-workers are a mess. One day they're sucking up, the next they're keeping their distance. Even Marco, a guy in Ronan's crew she thought was a friend, Feels, now seems like he's walking on eggshells around her. Ronan drops the logical next step, the one that would cut her last tie to her old life. You could just quit. You never have to work again. The idea makes her sick. I need my work, Feels. It makes me feel like I have a purpose. He tries to rebrand her purpose as being an extension of him. You're my fiancé, but she's not having it. That can't be all I am, Ronan. I have to be me, not just a moon reflecting your light. His denial is instant. Feels automatic. I would never ask you to be that. Feels. But that's how it works, isn't it? She shoots back, her voice getting sharp now that she sees the whole picture. The wives, they become accessories, pretty ornaments to show off at dinner. A muscle in Ronan's jaw tightens. The mask is slipping, feels, and you can see the cold rage of a guy who just got called out. Is that what you think I want from you? The question is a weapon, trying to turn her own point against her. She says she doesn't know, feels, but she can see the huge gap between the partnership he talks about and the kingdom he's actually built. Weeks of frustration just boil over. She gets it now with terrifying clarity. Even if he doesn't mean to isolate her, feels, her being totally alone is the price tag on his love. He demands to know what she wants, acting like he can't control how the world sees her. I want you to see me as your partner, she begs. Not as something that might break, feels. I think I can manage carrying 2 plates, she says, her voice low and tight, throwing her kidnapping, something she survived all alone, right back in his face. The silence that follows is electric. This is their first real throwdown since the ring, feels. A fight not about what they did, but about who she is, her power, her soul. Finally, he backs off. You're right, Ronan admits. Then comes the pro-level pivot, reframing his control freak issues as a side effect of his own trauma, feels. The idea of something happening to you, it destroys me. This confession totally flips the script, making his pain a mirror of hers. I'm terrified too, she admits in a whisper, talking about her fear of losing him, feels of failing at this impossible relationship, of watching herself just dissolve into him, feels. The firestorm of her anger dies down, leaving them both standing in the ashes of their shared terror. But we can't have a life if you're trying to keep me sealed in a box. Ronan gives a weak nod. She pushes, needing more than that, feels. You have Luca following me. You shot down my idea for night classes. You barely let me walk to the corner by myself. Then, with a chilling certainty, she realizes his control probably extends to her last safe space, her office. He confirms it, feels, his voice way too calm. I have someone watching. Sophia is always close by. The confession hits like a punch to the gut, proving every paranoid thought she had was real, and a fresh wave of rage builds. I can't live like that, she cries out, feels, his surveillance feeling like a phantom hand around her throat. He falls back on the oldest excuse in the dictator's playbook. It's not about control. It's about safety, feels. It's always about both. She fires back, a shot of insight that seems to shock him into silence. She reaches him, a last-ditch effort to pull them back from the edge. I'm not asking you to stop protecting me. I'm asking you to trust me to not be an idiot, feels. And then she goes right for the heart of his problem, naming the ghost that runs his life, his son. After Matteo was gone, I promised myself I would never let anyone get that close again, he reveals, his voice completely raw. And then you walked in, feels. He describes his fear not as a feeling, but as a living thing inside him, a constant fire. It's a confession perfectly designed to shut her down with the sheer size of his pain. I'm not Matteo, she replies, her voice soft but solid, feels, trying to carve out a space for herself that isn't his grief. I'm not your son, feels. And you can't save me the way you couldn't save him. She keeps going, hammering the point home. He nods, agreeing with the logic, but his eyes tell the real story. His fear is a wild animal that doesn't care about reason. Then we learn to live with it, feels. She offers, her hands gripping his, without letting it steer the ship into the rocks. She lays out the only 2 ways his current path can end, and in both of them, she gets erased. I'll either suffocate or I'll burn this all to the ground. A long, feels, heavy silence hangs between them, full of his baggage. Finally, he pulls her close, basically surrendering. I'll try, he promises into her hair, framing his demons not as choices he makes, but as instincts he can't control, feels. I know, she whispers, pretty much signing off on the new rules of their relationship, a slow, painful negotiation with his trauma. We both will. The storm is over, leaving behind quiet apologies and shaky promises. Later, Ronan makes a tactical move, feels, like a general pulling his troops back just enough to make it look like peace. He tells Luca to make the security less obvious. It's strategic concession, a change in appearance. But the actual war for her independence is far from over, feels. The surveillance itself was never up for debate. It was just a PR move, designed to shut her up without him giving up a single damn inch of power, feels. So in this new ceasefire, Elena starts to crack. She begins dropping her schedule into his lap, basically a preemptive peace offering to his paranoia, a sacrifice to his anxiety. Having his invisible army around becomes just another part of her day, feels. It's the deal she makes with the devil. So what does she do? She channels all that frustrated energy into planning the wedding. She becomes a general commanding an army of florists and caterers, her laser focus on venues actually making Ronan smile. Heals. But when he suggests just eloping, her response is fast and brutal. No, she snaps, the look in her eyes showing an old wound, a desperate need to control this one single event in a life she knows she's already lost control of. Heals. She holds up two fabric samples that are, let's be real, the exact same color. Ivory and cream, to him it's just white. To her it's a deep philosophical war. Ivory is warm, she lectures, cream is cool, Heals. And this tiny difference will define the entire wedding's vibe. He plays the classic bored boyfriend, a slick and quiet power move. She playfully lobs a sample at him, begging for an opinion. Heals. His reply, "You'll be beautiful in anything," is the perfect counterattack, stroking her ego while totally dismissing her choice. The smile she gives him is his victory lap. The venue they pick is a villa on a cliff outside Palermo, Heals, chosen for its killer looks. More importantly, because it's in the middle of nowhere. The 50 guests are a hand-picked crew of his most loyal guys, making sure the stage is set and completely under his thumb. Heals. With no family to represent either of them. Elena's died years ago, Ronan's were, let's say, methodically removed. They're basically two rogue nations forming one heavily armed island. Intimate is what Elena calls it when talking to Jeppy, the caterer, Heals, as if total control was just a style choice. Good food, good company, no drama. But Jeppy gets it. He knows their world, so he asks about security. Elena's answer, a hopeful, lots, but hopefully discreet, is a kid's wish in a Shark Tank. Heals. He knows damn well nothing with Ronan Vale is ever low-key. This wedding is already causing earthquakes in Palermo's underworld. It needs walls of steel. Luca, the architect of this fortress, Heals, is tasked with turning a party into a military operation, with metal detectors, background checks, and snipers. Heals. This is insane, Elena had said just 2 weeks earlier, watching Luca's team sweep the air for hidden mics. That was the first crack in her carefully built fantasy. It's a wedding, not a G7 summit. Ronan's reply hammered in the new reality. Heals. Where we come from, there's not much of a difference. He wasn't just letting her into his club. He was drawing the borders of the prison she was already in. His deliberate correction, our world, was the final stitch, sewing her life directly onto his. Heals. The way Elena then leaned against him was a total surrender, her body accepting a truth her brain was still fighting. I like it, she confessed in a whisper. Sometimes I don't want to, but I do, the tragic anthem of someone learning to love their cage. Heals. Her friendship with Isabetta was another golden bar on that cage, with Sophia's memory acting as the silent, ever-watching guard. Heals. You're nervous, Isabetta says, not even a question. Terrified, Elena breathes out, finally admitting it. What if this is all a huge mistake? What if I can't be the person I need to be? Isabetta doesn't give her any cheap reassurances, just the cold, Heals, hard logic of their life. She takes all of Elena's trauma, surviving Santoro, almost getting killed by Dance, and reframes it. These aren't scars, they're her qualifications for the job. She lays out the map. You're stronger than you have any idea, Heals. That feeling Elena has of being one wrong move from total disaster, that's not paranoia. That's just an accurate weather report in her new reality. Isabetta's words lock it in. This is how they all live, all the time. The trick, she says, Heals, isn't to stand still, it's to move with purpose. Then she drops the lesson, a story from her own past about a marriage built on the dumb idea that love was enough. It wasn't. Heals. Her husband's violent end left her buried in his debts and a sitting duck for his enemies. Don't you dare pity me, she orders, brushing off the sympathy. I took the ruins he made of my life, and I built an empire from them. Heals. The turf she runs now completely dwarfs his, a victory she chalks up to not having the vulnerabilities that got him killed. Her sharp analysis then swivels to Elena, pinpointing her single greatest weapon, a partner who actually respects you. Heals. Ronan listening to her isn't some romantic fairy tale, it's a rare tactical advantage. Do not waste it. Her last piece of advice about wearing comfortable shoes sounds random, but it's a metaphor for being practical. In their world, you have to last, Heals, and pain is a weakness your enemy will always use against you. This is better advice than you'll get from anyone. Trust me, Heals. The night before the wedding, Elena goes back to her old apartment. It was a secret she kept, a link to the person she used to be. But after months breathing the fancy air of the villa, the small apartment feels foreign, like a stranger's house. Heals. Anxiety is pumping through her, keeping her wide awake as the last year flashes through her mind on repeat. The bloody first meeting, the strategic dinners, the kidnapping, the proposal. A year ago, she was someone who ran from anything permanent. Now, feels, she's about to legally chain herself to a magnificent monster. A text message buzzes. It's Ronan, a ghost in the machine yanking her right back. Can't sleep either. A smile creeps onto her face, an involuntary twitch she no longer controls. Feels as her thumbs start flying. Feels. Having second thoughts, she types. His reply is instant. Never. I'm terrified, but it's a good kind of terror. He's already spinning her anxiety into excitement. She plays along, and then the chat goes silent. Feels. He follows up with a perfectly calculated move, a tiny piece of fake vulnerability. I'm terrified I'll wake up and this was all a dream. That you'll see you're meant for better things and just disappear. It was expertly crafted poison, feels, designed to make her the only cure, the one person in charge of his feelings. A knot forms in Elena's throat. The distance is suddenly too much. She hits call. You know I'm not leaving, right? She asks. Feels, giving him the exact reassurance his whole game was designed to get. I know. It doesn't stop the fear. And then her own truth spills out. The fear that she won't be good enough for his world. Feels that he's only interested in her because she's an outsider, a status she's about to lose for good. Feels. And once I'm part of it, I'll just be another asset for you to manage, not someone you love. His denial is immediate and total. That will not happen. He doesn't just soothe her fear. He nukes it from orbit with pure conviction. Yes, I can be sure. Feels. Because you are not something I manage. You're the one who makes me remember why I'm alive. It was a masterclass pivot, turning her fear of being an object into the massive burden of being his entire purpose. He just made her responsible for his soul. Feels. The tears start falling. I love you, she says, the final words that seal their trauma bond. After hanging up, she writes a letter, a final act of surrender, signing off on her decision with eyes wide open and zero regrets. Feels. With the war inside her head finally over, she falls asleep. Feels. The wedding day arrives under a sky so perfectly, clinically blue it looked fake. Elena gets ready, a queen holding court in her new kingdom. Isabetta stands beside her, pouring champagne, propping up the beautiful illusion of a celebration. Feels. You look beautiful, she says, before a sliver of brutal honesty cuts through. You look terrified. When Elena doesn't even try to deny it, Isabetta's smile is like a veteran welcoming a rookie to the squad. That too, feels, but mostly beautiful. A quiet confirmation that, in their line of work, terror and beauty are basically the same thing. Feels. The ceremony is set up on a terrace, the exact same spot where he started to tear her down and build her back up. 50 guests are seated in a cold, perfect grid, while men in dark suits scan the area with bored, professional eyes. The music kicks in. Feels. Elena begins her walk toward Ronan. The look on his face as he watches her isn't just love. It's the deep, quiet pride of a collector who just landed the most valuable artifact in the world. The vows she wrote completely vanish from her head. Feels. Burned away by the sheer gravity of the moment. Her mind snaps back to the only thing that matters, how it all began. Feels. I dropped wine on you, she says, dead calm, and you didn't run. This is basically their twisted origin story, the core of their whole beautiful disaster. Her entire future now hinges on that one decision they made together, not to bail. I'm picking you, feels. Ronan, I'm picking this messed up life. I'm picking us. His vows are shorter, sharper, a perfect comeback. You brought me back to life. I'll use every day I have left to deserve it. Then some efficient blurs through the legal stuff, feels, and he lays a kiss on her. A public claim, sealing the deal in front of his entire world. The reception after that was just a perfectly staged show of happiness, cementing their power couple status for anyone who mattered. Feels. The food from Jeppy was next level. But the speeches from guys like Dante Russo, they were more like cult sermons, drilling loyalty to the clan into everyone's heads. Isabetta tells some old story about Ronan, building up his myth even more. Feels. The only thing that broke the perfect facade was Luca's short, wasted song. But the real main event was their first dance, this slow, deliberate circle that was all about ownership and unity, performed for the whole damn room. Happy? Ronan whispers. Feels. No second thoughts? Not a single one? He's running diagnostics, making sure the brainwashing stuck. Only one, she breathes back, one last spark of her old self. That I didn't spill the wine on you myself that night. Feels. Would have saved us a boatload of time. Then she yanks his head down for a kiss, killing that last bit of defiance with one final act of surrender. Feels. Their honeymoon was 3 days of highly scheduled nothing on an island owned by a ghost. No security detail, no calls. It was a fake out, a simulation of normal life designed to make their bond unbreakable. For 3 days, they played the part of a regular husband and wife, and for 3 whole days, she almost fell for her own act. Heels. The illusion shattered at 2 in the morning on the fourth night. A phone goes off, and she watches him change. The chilled-out husband? Gone. Replaced instantly by the apex predator. When? He growls into the dark. How many? I can be there in 3 hours. Heels. He was already getting dressed before the call was even over. His moves pure, deadly instinct. She asks what happened, a warehouse fire. Probably arson, a key facility. As he clips a holster to his shoulder, the cold, heels, hard reality of their life snaps back into focus. I need going with you, she fires back. It wasn't a question or a request. It was a statement of fact about her new reality, the final proof. Heels. The takeover was 100% complete. She wasn't just a spectator in his world anymore. She was a partner, her identity now welded to his. Heels. Her move showed she refused to be benched when the stakes were this high. She was already mentally out the door. Plus, there was their whole security protocol, the one set up to protect her. Ronan pushes back at first, heels, but something in her stare seems to flip a switch in his head. His orders were quick. Stay close, do what I do, and you pull back the second I say so. An unspoken deal was struck. The drive to Sicily was thick with tension you could cut with a knife. Heels. When they hit the warehouse district, the main blaze was out, but smoke was still pouring from the building's skeleton, a place that was supposed to be protecting millions in assets. Luca meets them at the edge, his face a grim mask. 3 dead, Heels, he tells them, all his guys. The attacker knew the guard rotations, knew the building's weak spots like they designed the place themselves. Heels. His eyes flick from Elena to Luca. Time for a private chat. Ronan shuts that down fast. Anything that involves me can be said in front of my wife. That word, wife, just hangs in the air. It sounds weird to Elena. Heels. But she can't miss the hard-as-steel claim in his voice. Luca gives in after a second. We think it's the Corsicans. Payback for Marseille. They've wanted a bigger piece of our shipping routes for months. Let them want. We give up nothing. Heels. They're past asking, Ronan. This was a declaration of war. Luca holds up his phone, showing a picture of a spray-painted symbol on a wall nearby. Elena can't read the Italian, but you don't need a translator for a skull and crossbones. Heels. A muscle jumps in Ronan's jaw. Set up a meeting. We need to look like we're willing to talk. You have zero intention of negotiating, Elena points out, not even a question. Correct, but it's critical they think I do. His eyes lock with hers. Heels. Can you give us a minute? This right here was the first major test of their whole deal, and Elena knew it. She could fight him on it, demand to be included, prove she wasn't some pushover, or she could show some trust. Heels. A silent signal that she gets that some doors are closed to her. I'll be in the car, she says, backing down. Out of nowhere, Sophia appears. Proof that even this little trip was being watched, and walks Elena back to the car. Heels. They just sit there in silence, watching guys in expensive suits move like they mean business, their quiet words lost in the wind but their vibe screaming danger. Does this part of it ever get easier? She asks Sophia. Knowing what they do, Heels. Just living with it. Sophia actually thinks about it. To separate the man you love from the things he has to do. But easier? No. That never comes. How long have you worked for Ronan? 5 years, Heels. Since the Albanians killed my husband. Sophia's face was unreadable like stone. Ronan handled the men responsible. Then he gave me a job when I had Zip. I owe him everything, a debt. Elena felt this urge to dig deeper, Heels, to map out the brutal landscape of the world she just married into. Heels, an entire network built on loyalty to a guy who lived by a moral code from another planet. Before she can even finish the thought, Ronan is at the car, his face a total blank. We're leaving, he says. Luca's cleaning up the rest. Heels. The drive back to the villa was wrapped in a heavy silence. Elena watched the stiff line of Ronan's shoulders, the knuckle grip he had on the steering wheel. Heels. He pulls through the gates but just lets the engine run for a long minute before he finally talks. I have to tell you something, he starts, and I need you to hear all of it. Okay. This thing with the Corsicans, it's not getting sorted out at a meeting. Heels. There's no handshake that ends this. It's about to blow up, and it's going to happen fast. Heels. And I absolutely have to know you're built to handle that. Elena turns in her seat to look right at him. What are you really asking me? I'm asking if you can live with the fact that I'm about to start a war, because that's what's coming. A war for turf, Heels, for respect. The only things that mean jack in my world, and I'm not going to watch it happen. I'm going to be the one giving the orders that get men killed. Have you ever watched anything from the sidelines? Honestly, with you I was. Or I tried to be, feels. Ronan's eyes finally meet hers. But that's not me, not the whole me, and I've been waiting for you to see it and run. Stop waiting for me to leave. I'm not going anywhere. Elena reaches over and grabs his hand. Feels. I married you with my eyes wide open. I see you for who you are. A guy who can be incredibly gentle and unbelievably violent. A man whose love is as hardcore as his wars. You can't freak me out by showing me a part of you I already know is there. Feels. You haven't seen this part. Not all of it. Then show me. Let me in instead of trying to hide me from what you do. She squeezes his hand. I'm way stronger than you think, Ronan, and I'm sick of you waiting for me to crack. Something in his expression changes. Feels. A decision made in that one single moment, fine. But once you see this, you can't unsee it. You understand. I understand. Feels. For the next 3 weeks, Ronan kept his promise. No more secret late-night meets. Tense phone calls happened right in front of her, and the battle plans against the Corsicans were spread out all over the study table. Elena became a ghost in the room, feels. Watching men talk about murder and destruction like they were boring accountants. She learned the whole language of organized crime, the codes and BS words that turned brutal violence into another item on a spreadsheet. It was disgusting, feels. It was also completely fascinating. You're handling this shockingly well, Isabetta remarked one afternoon. Most new wives would be having a total meltdown by now. Who says I'm not? Elena replied, stirring her espresso. Feels. My meltdowns are just private. Good. Showing weakness in this world is basically asking to be eaten alive. Feels. For a hot second, Isabetta actually looked sorry for her. But she straight to it. So how are you not losing your mind? Easy. Walls. Just like Sophia said to. Elena stared into her cup. I build a wall. Feels. The guy who brings me coffee is not the guy who ordered a kneecapping last Tuesday. It's the only way to stay sane.
Isabetta wasn't buying it.
That works for a while, she warned. But you gotta merge them eventually. He's the same dude. And if I can't? Feels. Then you bounce before you two destroy each other, Isabetta said, leaning in. I've seen women try to pull men like him out of this life. It's always a dumpster fire. You take all of him, or you get none. There's no middle ground, feels. Elena chewed on that all the way home, flashing through all the different versions of Ronan she'd seen so far. Feels. The grieving dad, the obsessed lover, the ice-cold strategist running his chaos with terrifying focus. They were all pieces of one ridiculously complicated guy living a ridiculously complicated life. Could she really sign up for all that? Feels. The question followed her home. The answer showed up 2 nights later when Elena woke up to a cold, empty spot in their bed. She found him in his study, staring at photos of the guys who got taken out at the warehouse. 3 men, husbands, sons, feels. Dead because they were in the wrong place at the wrong time when the Corsicans hit. I knew them, Ronan said, his voice low, eyes glued to the screen. One of them had a daughter getting married next month, feels. Antonio wired money to his mom in Naples every week. Marco, his voice just shattered, feels. Marco just found out his wife was pregnant. Elena came up behind him, wrapping her arms around his chest. This isn't your fault. Yes, it is. My crew, my business. They died because of me. They died because another crew chose violence. Feels. You didn't start this fire, Ronan. Might as well have. My war, my turf, my problem. Their blood is on my hands. He finally turned, and his eyes were raw, completely bloodshot. How can you even touch me knowing that? Feels. It was the weakest she'd ever seen him. This dude who wears power like a designer suit. And right then, she got what Isabetta meant about putting the pieces together. Feels. This wasn't some monster who was separate from the man she loved. This was her husband, crumbling under the weight of choices that had no right answers, trying to hold his empire together while not completely losing his soul. Feels. I can touch you because their deaths mean something to you, she whispered. Because you're not some sociopath who thinks people are disposable. You're a man doing horrible things for reasons I don't get. And you carry the weight of every single one. Feels. That's more human than you think. That doesn't make it right. No, she admitted, but it makes it real. And I'd rather have a real complicated man than a simple lie. Feels. She pulled him up out of the chair, a silent order, steering him toward the dim light of their bedroom. Come on, you need rest. My mind needs to plan the payback. The Corsicans are going to get what's coming to them. Tomorrow, they'll pay. But tonight, Feels. You're just a husband. A guy who watched 3 of his own men die. Let yourself feel it. In the dark, Ronan held on to Helena like a guy drowning at sea, and she was the only thing floating. She let him have that space, Feels. a place to grieve the men he couldn't save. In that raw, quiet moment, they found another unwritten rule of their marriage. It wasn't just for the good times, but for the brutal moments when one of them had to hold the other's broken pieces together. Heels. The war with the Corsicans went on for 6 weeks, a nasty mess of tactical hits and bloody revenge, of territory won and lost, of names being crossed off lists on both sides. Heels. Ronan ran the whole operation with the chilling precision of a surgeon, and Elena watched the man she knew get sharpened into something even more deadly, more terrifying. Yet every night he'd crawl back to her, a ghost collapsing into their bed, heels, letting her arms be the one thing that grounded him after a day of necessary evil. Slowly, she learned to hold two totally opposite ideas in her head at once without cracking. Ronan was the cause of terrible things, and she loved him anyway, heels. The whole game changed the night an uninvited guest showed up, a Corsican named Laurent, a top guy for the man who ordered the warehouse hit. He came under a flag of truce with one insane request, a face-to-face meeting. Heels. It's a trap. Luca's reaction was textbook, straight out of the paranoid gangster's handbook. But Ronan, he saw the situation differently. This wasn't a cage, it was a stage. It's an opportunity, he shot back. Heels. The classic mindset of a guy who bends reality to his will. He turned to Elena, asking for a fresh perspective. Her response was pure strategic genius, a total mind game. She proposed a crazy gambit. Meet in public with almost no security. Heels. The plan was to use their own vulnerability as a weapon, and it showed just how much her thinking had synced up with his. Luca's objection was the last gasp of common sense. This is beyond reckless, Elena said, her voice dead calm. Heels. Her logic now perfectly in line with their shared insanity. Ronan gave a slow final nod. Her wild tactic was now his. Heels. I'm going with you, Elena announced, cutting through the tension like a knife, staking her claim in this whole mess. This was it. Her final evolution from a pawn to a queen. Ronan's immediate no was pure instinct, heels, but she dismantled his argument piece by piece. She pitched herself as a symbol, not a liability, but a potential peace deal, the living proof of a normal life he was fighting for. A way to put a human face on the monster, heels. The logic was as twisted as it was brilliant. I'm a target either way, she said, fully accepting her new reality. Breaking every rule in the book, he gave in. The meeting itself was a masterclass in controlled threats. Heels. Laurent showed up with the same tiny crew as Ronan, a quiet admission that both bosses were putting their lives on the line. Heels. They took a table out in the open, two kings on a public chessboard, while Elena and the security guys formed a nervous circle around them. From where she stood, she broke down the whole performance. The tiny shifts in posture, a clenched jaw, heels. The way raw aggression slowly melted into what you could almost call a negotiation. It all ended with a handshake. One solid, meaningful handshake between Ronan and Laurent, and just like that, the war was over. Heels. The silence in the car on the way back was heavy. She finally had to ask. We split the territory, he said, a solution that let both men walk away with their pride. Then he looked at her, really looked at her. Your strategy worked, Heels. He was validating her not as his wife, but as a weapon, adding that Laurent saw her presence as proof he had something to protect. She was a valuable piece on the board, Heels. Elena's sad little smile didn't get past him. You are my wife, he corrected, but yeah. The kind of asset his men would get. Her official rank in this twisted world was now confirmed, a fact she filed away in the silent, bruised-up library of her mind. Heels. A fragile peace settled over their lives. A new rhythm began. With the war over, Ronan was actually home, his violence now a low hum instead of a daily scream. Inside this fancy prison, Elena started to build a life. A part-time job, college classes, Heels, charity events. She was building a version of herself that wasn't just the kingpin's wife. Heels. You've changed, Ronan noted, his voice a low rumble across the dinner table one Thursday. He could see the new framework she'd built inside herself. You carry yourself differently, more sure. She met his gaze, Heels, her answer simple and heavy with everything she'd been through. I had to. 6 months later, that new world shattered. 2 missed periods. The pregnancy test sat on the cold marble counter, its verdict unread for 20 minutes of pure, Heels, suspended terror. Finally, 2 solid, undeniable lines. That biological fact started a full-blown civil war inside her, a storm of joy and dread, desperate hope and absolute fear. A child, Heels. The idea of bringing a new life into this kingdom of death was a mind-blowing, heart-stopping paradox. Heels. An hour went by before Ronan found her in a heap on the bathroom floor, the little plastic stick still clutched in her hand. He came toward her, slow and calm. Kneeling, his eyes took in her broken state before landing on the thing that did it. Is that? Feels. Positive. His voice was barely there. I'm pregnant, she breathed, the words feeling impossible and alien. A tremor went through Ronan's hand as he reached for the test, a tiny crack in his perfect composure that showed the man underneath. Are we insane? Feels. Elena's voice broke. Bringing a baby into this world of yours. It was the raw, primal fear of a mother. He met her panic with a shield of words. You're the kind of mother who will defend that child with every single thing you have. Feels. Ronan hits the tile floor, his hands clamped over hers, trying to anchor them both to reality. Elena, look at me. He's trying to cut through the chaos, find a signal in the noise. Are you happy? The question is a scalpel, Feels, aimed straight past the fear to find the truth. She digs through the emotional wreckage and finds it, a tiny spark. Yes, she breathes. That's all he needs. That's it then. We'll figure out the rest. He pulls her into a hug, Feels, whispering a promise of safety into her hair that he knows is a total lie. He brings up Mateo, the ghost of his biggest failure, not as a weight but as fuel. I lost a kid once. That is not happening again. Feels. That half parmise hangs in the air, completely hollow. I need a real promise, she demands, her voice suddenly turning to steel. Promise me our child won't be Mateo. Whoa, this isn't a plea anymore. This is a negotiation for a human soul, Feels. She wants a life of actual safety, not some gilded cage paid for with blood money. The demand means he has to nuke the very foundation of his world. Ronan goes dead silent, the sheer weight of her request crushing him, Feels. This isn't just about changing his ways, it's a full-blown exorcism. I know it can't change overnight, she adds, giving him an inch in her ultimatum, knowing she's asking him to kill a demon. Feels. I need to know you'll try, she pushes. That you want more for our child. His vow, when it finally comes, is a total surrender. Whatever it takes, I promise you. And just like that, the pregnancy becomes the new sun in his solar system. Feels. His protective instinct goes into hyperdrive, becoming a constant smothering force. More importantly, his entire business strategy flips. The real dirty work, that gets kicked down to Luca. He begins the long, Feels, brutal process of pulling his own hands out of the machinery of his empire. I'm reorganizing, he tells her, using sterile corporate language, making the system less dependent on me. It's a blueprint for survival, for his heir, for them. Feels. I want to be a father this time, he says, and the raw power in his voice makes her believe him. The months that follow are a masterclass in trying. It's not a straight line. There are days the old Ronin claws to get out, Feels, but the powerful current of his promise always drags him back. They turn a spare room into a nursery. The smell of her painting the walls, the sound of him hammering together the crib, these are tiny rebellions of normalcy in a life that has none, Feels. They argue about paint colors and baby names, and these beautifully stupid fights feel like stolen jewels, Feels. Labor kicks off on a Thursday, because of course it does. Ronan drives like a man possessed. For 17 straight hours of hell, he never leaves her side, and when their daughter is finally born, he just shatters. The sight of her completely wrecks him, Feels. She's perfect. He manages to get out, his voice thick with tears. Isabella Maria Valle is born with her father's eyes. For Elena, the love is instant and fierce, a painful clench around her heart. Welcome to our beautiful, broken world, Feels. She whispers to the newborn, I am so sorry. Ronan, openly weeping, repeats his vow to this tiny new person. We will be better, for you, I swear. And right then, he actually thinks it's possible. Feels. It's all there in his eyes. This terrifying animal-like protectiveness, welded to a tenderness so deep it could stop your heart. This isn't about replacing the son he lost, Feels. This is about honoring that ghost by finally becoming the man he should have been. The first few months are a blur of newborn chaos, sleepless nights, an exhaustion so bone-deep it feels like drowning. And yet, they move like one person, Feels. Ronan has this shocking natural talent for taking care of a baby, an act that spits in the face of his violent world. He takes paternity leave, a move that sends waves of pure disbelief through his entire organization. Feels. Dante says I've gone soft, Ronan says one night, with Isabella sleeping on his chest. Told me I'm a domestic now. Elena just watches him. What did you tell him? He can call me anything he wants, he answers, his eyes locked on his daughter. Feels. As long as he understands my family is the priority. A line in the sand, clear and permanent. The business is over there. But this, he whispers, his hand on the baby's tiny back, this is my entire world. A deep sense of peace washes over Elena. Feels. This was him, the man she'd pulled out from under the monster. A killer, a grieving father, a devoted husband. All the shattered pieces of him finally being forged into something whole by the desperate need to be a good man. Feels. It's late when Elena finds him in the nursery, lit by a soft nightlight, his voice a low stream of Italian flowing over their sleeping 6-month-old. "What are you telling her?" she asks quietly from the doorway. He looks up, feels, the light carving shadows into his face. "About her brother," he says, "about Matteo. He has this need for their daughter to know he was real, to give the boy a legacy of courage and death that Ronan never gave him in life." Elena joins him, feels, her presence a silent approval. "He would be glad you're doing this." "I hope so." Ronan's voice is thick with unshed tears as he gently lays Isabella in her crib. "The pain, it feels different now. It no longer runs my life," feels. "That's because you're finally letting yourself live," she whispers back. "Part diagnosis, part comfort. It's because you taught me how," he counters, turning to pull her in, a quiet reboot of the bond they built from the wreckage. Feels. There was a time Elena remembers where she was basically a ghost, just going through the motions of life expecting it to end. Then Ronan happened. You don't meet a guy like that. He was an impact event, feels, a violent collision that threw her back into a world with a future. And it was mutual. Two souls, frozen in their own messed up histories, needing the other's sheer force to get moving again, feels. Her head is on his shoulder now as she watches their daughter sleep. "This," she says, her voice a whisper, "this is what I was running from." It was always the terror of getting attached, a defense mechanism against a wound she knew was coming, feels. So she never put down roots, but the frantic energy is gone. The escape is over. For a long moment, they're just a picture. Two people staring at the impossible chain of events that landed them in this room, feels. A spilled glass of wine, a weekly duty. A kidnapping that should have broken them ended up being the very thing that forged them. Life is built on twisted ironies like that. The most traumatic moments often become the foundation for your greatest joys, feels, a terrible and beautiful knot tied in your soul. A year after the birth, Ronan does the unthinkable. He calls a sit-down with his lieutenants, the room so tense you could cut it with a knife, and announces he's transferring power to Luca, feels, his second in command. This isn't happening overnight. It's a meticulously planned 5-year transition. "I have dedicated 30 years to building this," he tells the stone-faced men in front of him. "I am not abandoning it," feels, "but I will no longer allow it to be my entire identity," feels. "My family requires more of me. I require more of myself." The silence in the room is absolute, shattered only by the sound of one man clapping, Dante Russo. The spell is broken and others join. "It's about damn time," Dante says later, feels. "We were afraid you'd forgotten what was important." Later, Luca gets Ronan alone. "Are you certain about this?" The answer is fired back with zero hesitation. "I am more certain of this than anything in my life." Ronan studies his chosen successor, feels. "Are you ready? You have been for years." It's a coronation, a transfer of trust meant to empower him, to let him lead without constantly looking back. So, what is the plan? A faint, rare smile touches Ronan's lips. To live. To actually experience life, feels, not just survive it. To spend time with my wife, with my daughter. Maybe finally learn to prepare a meal Jeppy won't immediately discard, feels. The kingpin giving up his throne for a life of quiet domesticity. The idea is radical. "I am still the kingpin," Ronan clarifies, his smile vanish, his tone turning back to steel. "I'm merely reducing my office hours." A chill creeps back into the air, feels. "But Luca, should anyone threaten my family, should anyone try what Santoro tried, they will discover we are all still present." Luca's nod is silent, solemn vow. This change wasn't like flipping a switch. There were times the old ghosts would rise, feels. Moments that desperate hunger for control would flicker in his eyes. Yet he beat it back every time, choosing them, choosing this new life over the familiar dark pull of his empire. A man actively remaking himself, driven by a love he never saw coming, feels. Elena watched this transformation, saw the man once defined by rage and loss slowly become whole again. Not perfect, never perfect, feels. Ronan was never going to be Mr. Zen, but you can't deny the guy was putting in the work to fix himself. And she was leveling up, too. The woman who used to shake so hard she'd spill wine on a mob boss was now a quiet force, feels. Playing a game she was never designed for. She took over his foundations, flipping them from money laundering fronts into actual legit charities. Building something good from all that wreckage gave her purpose. Meanwhile, Isabella morphed into a bright, feels, super stubborn toddler who had her dad completely owned. She walked, she talked, and she laid down the law with a confidence she could have only gotten from her parents, feels. For their daughter's second birthday, Elena ends up back at Osteria del Luna, Ground Zero. She hadn't been back for months. Jeppy's on food duty, and the private room is a wild mix of corporate suits and career criminals, all laughing it up, feels, genuinely celebrating this insane little family. Marco, the owner, pulls her aside. I still remember that night with the wine, he says, with this look in his eye. Honestly thought he'd have you sleeping with the fishes by morning, feels. I was pretty sure a crime lord was about to ice me over a red wine stain. And now look, you're his wife. Life's a trip, the biggest. But the smile she gives him is real, full of a new kind of lightness. Feels. Thanks, Marco, for the job, for accidentally yeeting me into this whole new life. I know you didn't mean to, but it was exactly what I needed. I saw how he looked at you, even that first night, feels. It was like someone flipped a switch in a room that had been dark for, like ever. Marco pats her hand. Good for all of us. The party rages on. Isabella finally crashes in Ronan's arms while Dante's telling old war stories. Feels. Asaba and Jeppy are screaming at each other about the right way to make risotto. The whole room is just this warm, chaotic mess, the exact definition of the found family Elena always wanted but never thought she'd get. Feels. Way later, everyone's gone and Isabella is out cold. Elena and Ronan are on the terrace, staring at the huge, dark sea. Same view as their wedding night and 1,000 nights since. Happy? Ronan asks, his arm locked around her. Insanely, feels. Elena leans her head on his shoulder. If you told me 3 years ago I'd be married to a Sicilian mafia don, have his kid, and have zero regrets, I'd have had you committed, feels. And what if they told you that same mob boss would be happier than he'd ever been in his life? Not a chance. You weren't exactly a ray of sunshine when we met. I wasn't anything. That was the problem. He kisses her temple. You changed the whole game. Feels. Elena, you gave me a reason to be alive, not just to breathe. Feels. I don't say it enough. But thank you. You don't have to thank me for loving you. That was the easiest thing I've ever done. A chill silence settles between them, just the sound of the waves and Palermo humming in the distance. Feels. Two totally broken people who found each other in the most messed up situation imaginable. They went through violence, loss, and the kind of choices that could wreck a person. And out of the rubble of who they used to be, feels, they built something that might actually last. I've been thinking, Elena says, about opening a bookstore. Something small, quiet, a spot where people can just read, drink coffee, and exist. I think that's a damn good idea. Really? Feels. She turns to look at him. You don't think it's stupid? That I should be focused on the foundations on us? I think you should do whatever makes you happy. Feels. You've spent enough time holding me up. It's your turn to build something that's 100% yours. Ronan cracks a smile. Besides, Isabella needs to see her mother as more than just her father's wife. Feels. She needs to see a woman who has her own damn goals. A sudden burn of tears hits Elena's eyes. Even now, the way he could just see her was enough to take her breath away. I love you, she says, the words feeling too small but totally true. I love you, feels. Too, he answers, a guy who once thought that feeling was gone for good. From inside, a little cry from a sleeping kid. They both move to get up, but Ronan puts a hand on her arm. I got it, you stay. She watches him go back inside. This man, feels, so completely shattered when they met, who had put himself back together with sheer willpower, with love, and by choosing every single day to be better, feels. Not perfect. He was never going to be perfect. But the non-stop grind to be worthy of this second chance was the realest thing she'd ever seen. And right then, Elena got it. This was the actual story. It wasn't the kidnapping, the proposal, or the wedding, feels. That stuff was just the flashy trailer. The real story was written in the quiet, boring moments that came after, in choosing to stay when every nerve in her body screamed to bolt, feels. In the hard work of smashing two worlds together that should have never even touched. In the daily effort of loving a difficult man and letting herself be loved back in all her own glorious chaos. This is the truth for broken people who find each other, feels. They don't magically fix one another. They just agree to hang on together, feels. Theirs was a messy, high-maintenance dance, a team-up built on the daily grind of choosing to show up. But inside this whole mess, a crazy kind of logic appears when you find someone who doesn't just tolerate your baggage, feels, but actually likes the weird shape of it. Suddenly, the fear of being vulnerable and the weight of their insane history snaps into this terrifying, perfect focus, feels. An earlier version of Elena, the one who called her fear of closeness freedom, would have seen this domestic life as a fancy cage. Her entire brain was wired to run, feels. But that version of her had never felt the earthquake of being truly seen, of being wanted not in spite of her dark side, but because of it. Then the door opened, and there was Ronan, holding Isabella, their daughter, awake and babbling, a living, feels, breathing monument to the world she built instead of the one she ran from. Feels. "She's fighting sleep," he muttered, his voice a low rumble as he sat down with the kid. "Here, let me take her." When Elena tried to make the handoff, the baby fought it, her little fists grabbing her dad's shirt. A ghost of a smile hit his lips. Feels. "Looks like I'm on duty." He didn't seem mad about it at all. "You were saying a bookstore?" As she started laying out her whole vision, her plans filling the quiet air, he just listened. His focus was total. Feels. While one hand just automatically soothed the child whose breathing started to even out between them, until Isabella was finally toast. They stayed on that terrace while the sunrise painted the sky gold and pink. Another day. Another chance to get it right. Feels. And as Palermo woke up below, a huge truth hit Elena. This is what happiness is. Not a life without fear, but being close to the one person who makes facing that fear worth the price. Feels. She wasn't running anymore. Her roots had dug so deep into this place that they were part of the foundation. She couldn't rip them out now if she tried, and she didn't want to. This was home. This weird, broken, feels, impossible life they'd hammered together from spilled wine, Thursday dinners, and a silent promise to never walk away. It was enough. No, it was more than enough. It was everything. Years from now, when Isabella would ask how they started, feels, Elena's mind would flash back to this. She'd see the beautiful chaos of a shared meal and a bottle of wine, the exact moment where two lonely paths catastrophically and perfectly slammed into each other. She'd get it then as a core truth of her life. Feels. The biggest things happen by accident. The glorious disaster of being in the wrong place at the exact right time, of crashing into another soul and choosing to build a life in the wreckage instead of running away. Feels. And sometimes the most hardcore move you can make is to just stand still, to let yourself be seen by someone who has every reason in the world to keep their own walls up. It's picking vulnerability over the illusion of control. Feels. Elena had built her entire adult life to escape that kind of closeness. Ronan was a guy buried so deep in grief he forgot how to want anything more than just getting through the day. And yet, against all odds, they found each other. Feels. From the broken shards of their pasts, they built something that could last. They became living proof that people can heal, that a future you thought was dead and buried can be brought back to life. This wasn't because they were flawless, feels, or because love is some magic cure-all. It was because over and over, without a single exception, they chose each other top model, feels, every single day, through all the violent chaos and the quiet moments of peace, through the raw fear and the shocking bits of grace, through the twisted, insane work of weaving two completely different lives into one. That's the real story here, feels. Two messed up people who crashed into each other by accident and then just refused to let go with a desperate, trauma-fueled grip. They found out that the best things can grow from the biggest mistakes. That healing isn't about erasing the scars, feels, but about finding someone who holds your hand while you learn to live with them. And they learned that family isn't about blood or tradition or being perfect. It's something you build, founded on brutal honesty and a crazy commitment to never let go, feels, even when you're about to fall. This was the shelter Elena and Ronan built, feels. It was the shelter they were still building, one Thursday at a time, one decision, one single moment where he stayed put when every gut feeling was screaming at him to run. As the sun finally crested the Palermo rooftops, flooding their terrace with a warm, forgiving glow, Elena looked at her partner and their child and felt a kind of certainty she'd never known in her whole life. This, right here, this was her place in the world. After a lifetime of running, she was finally, completely home.